What is going on, everyone? We should be streaming now, but I've got some people to add. We actually do reach 8, which is very exciting here. We just got to add those last minute additions. Let's see. I need to spell Danny Droid's name correctly with the I's. And then we've got DK0 as well as our last. So that will be the 8 that we need. So yeah, very exciting. And here we go. So let's shuffle those seeds. Let's continue with seed shuffling there. And yeah, I'll join in to the voice chat here. Hello. We've got 8 exactly. So I guess I'll give. I guess we give 5 more minutes, but we're at 8 exactly. But I think this should be good. So yeah, okay. So I think we're gonna start it off as is. So let's get this thing started here. I shuffled up the seeds. So or maybe I didn't. I'll shuffle them up one more because DK and Danny got paired together, which is weird if they were both the latest entries. But so I just shuffled it one more time just to be safe, that is. And we're starting the tournament. We're starting. So I'll send this on to the chat here. And there we go. Locals.
Hesha's in.
Yep, Hesha is in. We got Danny in. We got DK in. We got a good crowd this time. I'm gonna pull up the YouTube chat on my phone because I've been doing some last minute sort of coordination on Discord and on Challenge. So okay, I've got the chat up and we're ready to go. We are good to go. Oh, I should send the link to the stream as well. So let's do that. So let's copy that link and post it in the Discord. You can tell I'm on top of everything because I'm doing this all now. But yeah, here we go. Here is the stream, and let's dive into some games if they're going on. I'm excited.
DK0 and PJ are about to start, it looks like.
Yeah, and Dump Truck just set up a game for Clody as well. So we've got some good games to watch. So let's just dive in here to whichever one we can find first. There they are. Yep, they are indeed starting. So let's just start with them because they're both good duelists, so it should be fun. But Treasure format is a format that I feel like hasn't really been shown off too much outside of my general videos for them. So I'm excited to stream more of it because it's just really cool. I really like this format, and people brought some very interesting decks to this tournament here. So I'm excited to see that in action. And of course, we start off with the opening Delinquent Duo, a classic of Treasure format. And a big reason why some people are not the biggest fans of it. But we get to see...
Set the faith.
Yeah, well...
Set it.
I mean, if there's a faith to recycle that duo, that's pretty good. But we get to see an interesting tech out of DK here. That Rush Recklessly. And Rush Recklessly is a very interesting card in this format. It's gone back and forth about whether people actually like playing it or not. But it's cool to see it in DK's deck. So I guess we'll get to see if it actually comes up later in the game as well. Although if PJ Darkness does know about it, then... that's a bit more iffy. It can be a bit less of a surprise, but still pretty good. Looks like DK's on a bit of an Earth build here, so that's pretty cool.
Clowns.
Yeah, Clown control is very likely. That with the Rush Recklessly and the Giant Rat, that feels like
duo
Clown
loop
for
is
sure.
coming.
But yep, the duo loop's coming, but of course it's a bit less good when DK knows about it. So now this duo is just going to be a 1-for-1 trade. Still pretty good. Don't get me wrong. But in a deck like Clown Control, the deck can actually... oh, that Fisher, though, is... with that Fisher, this game changes a little bit. Honestly, PJ Darkness could just go and fire it now. They're going for a blind MST here, and they do hit a Change of Heart, so that MST worked out really well for them. Wow. But let's see if they go for the duo here. I don't think it's necessarily bad to go for the duo, even though DK's got one card in hand. Because, you could potentially assume that one card's a monster, given that they didn't set it. And so they might have been playing around heavy or something.
Oh!
Lash
Lash
Assailant!
Assailant OTK.
The Spice. Wow. Well, if it's not an OTK here, it's still pretty good in this situation.
Yep.
That's pretty well. A Fisher will stop it though, so
Yeah.
you know.
And we can predict. Oh, tomato.
Oh, and
Yep,
that's
it is.
honestly,
Yep.
I mean, I didn't pay attention to see if they shuffled their hand or not, but if that's a top deck, that's a really good top deck here. The recruiters are so sticky in this format, so hard to deal with, and it looks like PJ is currently out of monsters now, so a bit iffy. And that witch is going to be a great addition to the field because PJ could have board clears. But, now if they board clear, DK gets a monster to hand. Of course, they do have the duo to deal with that, but when you're as low life points as PJ's at, then it's a bit trickier to deal with. So, we'll have to see the Fisher. That really hurts. Fissuring a
He
witch
shouldn't have done that.
Well, it's kind of tough. Maybe he has a double Fisher as well.
That might be fine.
We'll have to see
now he's getting
exactly
Chaser.
what the hand is. But yeah, that's a very, very rough play
Oh,
here.
he's getting Sangan instead?
Yep. I mean, Sangan's still a good option. He's gone through a witch and a Sangan, so he probably wants to end on the witch because the witch can get more beaters, which will likely be better in the future. But
And thin the deck a little more.
No follow-up for that. This might be over very soon after such a great start, too.
Very quick.
Yeah. But
no heavy storm to punish.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you don't need it at this point, right?
No, you don't need it, but it helps with the blowout.
Oh, for sure.
Unfortunately, PJ just didn't have any. He said something.
That set could be something. That could be even like
he didn't have any
Cyberjar.
follow-up.
No, but could be Cyberjar. Let's see if it is. Oh, it's the Sangan. I mean, if he's got Karibo, then that could be it. But if not, yep, that is indeed the end of the game. So very quick game one. I mean, it kind of makes sense when you've got a deck like Flash Assailant OTK because the deck does kind of go all in on the Flash Assailant as you saw there.
No reverse trap.
But yeah, well, I mean, the reverse trap wouldn't have even mattered there.
Not in that case, no.
Yeah, the reverse trap could definitely matter later if they are playing reverse trap, but there it just didn't have an option because DK had the Fisher.
If that's the case,
I mean, it's tough. Yeah, and it's also sad that DK never really had their hand in a situation where it made sense for PJ to duo it too, so they didn't really get full value off the Faith, and
no.
But that can happen, especially when you're playing Flash Assailant OTK. You are playing some things to facilitate the Flash Assailant, which can be kind of tricky in terms of if you're in a losing position to claw your way back. But let's hope that this
Soul and
second
Colgate
game
are both looking like they're on good stuff so far.
Oh, okay, that could be an interesting game to watch after this. I wanna show off the rest of this match because I feel like it will be an easier viewing experience for the people watching the stream, and also
I'm just taking a quick look at.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you taking a quick look because that will help with sort of deciding which game we're gonna follow up on after this one's over, if this one ends before the other ones are done. But
hard to say what Danny and Kesha are playing. No obvious cards. So far, Forceful Sentry, Trapple, and Witch have been played, and Change of Heart and Cannon Soldier been played for Kesha.
Yep. Sounds like a pretty good start for both players. But yeah, it looks like it's just the set one pass.
Finally.
Interesting. I wonder what that set will be. It's probably not Flash Assailant because, I mean, if that's Flash Assailant, it's got 0 attack, 0 defense. But thank you, Sinkaruk. I'm glad that you're a fan, and I'm always happy to provide some background for the eating. I remember that's what I do with a lot of my favorite YouTubers. I just put them on while eating, and it's a very good way to pass the time while you're doing.
And apparently, Dumbtruck and Clody are also on.
Okay, so we got a full lineup. We got a full lineup of people playing. So I'm excited to see what everyone's on. But yeah, that tomato for the witch, classic play here. I think that's probably correct. And especially if you've got a Fisher to follow it up with. And a Sangan. Okay, we're seeing a pretty good aggressive front from PJ here. Or not. Oh, wait, no.
Lycan Critter. And Lycan Critter.
Yep.
A Dark Hole or Raigeki is a bad idea.
Well, it's not necessarily a bad idea. It's just a bit less good here. There are situations where it can come up, but the thing is that you've got 2 recruiters. You've got the 2 Sangans, 2 witches here still. So.
They get the opponent more monsters. It's acceptable if there's one, but two, it's like
it does depend on the like, you know, if you've got a big OTK push, you can go for it, but in general, it's not really the best. It's kind of a desperate move, but yeah, you generally want to clear the Sangans and Witches with like things like Mechanical Chaser, as DK's doing here.
Tomato,
rat. Tomato, rat, yeah, all the monsters.
Anything else other than mass removal.
Yeah. Oh, and that's really smart on PJ's side. Megamorph is a very flexible equip here, and like you can use it to buff up your own monsters, but also in a case where you're ahead, you can definitely use it to debuff your opponents and let your monsters get over it. So
this will do, though.
Yeah, very, very smart play on PJ Darkness's part here, and very cool to see this application of Megamorph in action.
Indeed.
Looks like DK is suffering from some lag, unfortunately. Dueling Book's been a bit laggy lately, I've noticed in these past locals. But, I mean, that's what happens. It's a very popular dueling platform, and when you have a bunch of people using it, it's bound to lag eventually.
Currently over 1,000 users.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that would potentially put some strain on the servers. Cannon Soldier here is a very interesting play. This implies that DK doesn't really have much else here to do because, you know, you generally want to save Cannon Soldier for, like, late game pushes to deal that last bit of damage. And
or
also,
the
like,
back row's another trap hole.
It could be, but still, that's... Yeah. Oh, okay.
No.
So we got the confiscation here.
Resource control.
Yeah.
A major part of this format.
Oh, yeah.
Muka?
Oh, Muka, very interesting. So
insane.
Yeah.
It's strong, but the hand rips and...
Yeah, I guess the reason it's probably played is because of the giant rats. So maybe this isn't a clown control deck, but maybe it's just like an Earthbox deck in general, which is
or
kind of
recruiter control.
Interesting. Going for the Reborn here. This is a pretty aggressive play. This is basically just PJ saying, you don't have Mirror Force. Or it's saying,
he's going for
have
game.
Mirror Force or
and
die.
And had game.
Yeah. I wonder if that set was a Rush Recklessly. That would be very interesting.
That would have been helpful.
If it was. Well, it wouldn't have been helpful for DK, but it would have made the Cannon Soldier play make a lot of sense because, you know, you summon Cannon Soldier, set the Rush, and then...
I meant without the change of heart. Keep the Cannon Soldier on the field.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But yeah, PJ was just able to wrap it up with that change. I mean, Change of Heart is one of the most powerful cards in these old formats. Like, I mean, I even think Change of Heart might be stronger than Raigeki and Darkhold, potentially, as you go on in the game's history. I think...
When you play Hayabusa OTK and Joey Pegasus, that's going to be very prophetic.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming up. I'm planning on getting the duel for that tonight because I've got the deck ready. I just need to actually get a game with it, and then hopefully I'll be able to upload that video tomorrow. So
Dump Truck and Clody are still in game 1.
Okay, and we've got a game 3 here between PJ and DK. So hopefully that means that we'll be able to see the end of this match and then jump into another in good time. So let's see what happens.
Everyone's still in game 1. This has just gone ridiculously quick.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially compared to like Yugi Kaiba or Critter, the pace of the game is definitely accelerated by the time Treacher comes along. And
to an extent.
Yeah, to an extent.
Games can still be very grindy.
Oh, for sure.
At times.
And I feel like the grindy aspect doesn't really go away from these formats until Witch and Sangan are limited. Because
Android is still very grindy at times.
Android is a bit grindy, but like not to the same extent as these older formats.
It's Joey Pegasus where we just start punching each other.
I think that Android honestly has that level as well because Android,
to an extent.
Android you have the ability to deal so much damage in a turn that like it really can lead to essentially OTKs, not quite OTKs. Oh, that's a really good Raigeki here. That's really good. You get rid of Rat, which is a very high value monster, and you get rid of Mechanical Chaser, which is a big beat stick. So that was a huge Raigeki from PJ here. And they're going to go for a Mechanical Chaser afterwards. I think they probably should have summoned Mechanical Chaser first and then gone for it. But, oh, interesting. Going for a Megamorph here. That's pretty good. So The mechanical stage was up at 3,700. Now it's down to a bit less than that. It's at 925. But it looks like they're just going for big damage here, just to whittle down DK's life points. So it means that they must have like something planned.
Hard to tell what PJ's 100% playing, since we haven't seen Flash Assailant.
Yeah, they could have sided out of Flash Assailant, I guess. But the way that they're playing, honestly, kind of makes me think that they still do have Flash Assailant, because it seems like they're trying to lower their hand size for the Megamorphs and stuff. So, I mean, I hope we get to see Flash Assailant again, because that was a pretty cool turn, game 1, seeing that there. But
indeed.
Yeah. As it is, it looks like just good stuff for now.
Megamorph.
Well, Megamorph isn't quite good stuff, but like, you know.
Yeah. It's a mix between equip, aggro, and good stuff. You're just playing Megamorph in a good stuff deck.
Yeah, but we'll have to see if they kept on the Flash Assailants.
Time to do some math.
Yep. I mean, yeah, this would just be 475.
Yep.
Yeah, at least it's not like cutting down a monster with some 25 increment. That would be very annoying to do.
Weird math. Weird life point counts.
Yeah, rounding in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is always kind of weird when you get into those sorts of situations.
Oh!
MST hitting heavy. That's pretty good. And now PJ's got to decide what exactly they're going to go for here, because attacking into the tomato is not... unless they've got their own tomato. Yeah. So,
tomato war.
And both players have 3 tomatoes somewhere in their deck, basically, because that's the first, and then 2 tomatoes from the deck. So, and DK does have to summon first, because that is how the rules of these things go.
The rules. And then PJ can decide what he wants to do. But
yeah. And
it's probably going to be another tomato.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, yeah, for sure.
We're not going to see an actual decision until they run through them all.
Yeah, the one case where that wouldn't happen is if either player drew their third tomato, which can happen. And it's always sad when that does happen. But
DK did not?
Yep, DK did not. Let's find out if PJ did. Looks like PJ didn't either. So, I mean, it makes sense that PJ didn't, because otherwise they probably wouldn't have gone for this line. But, yep, there's the last tomato crash, and here we get to see what each player is bringing out. So, it looks like DK is bringing out that Cannon Soldier, which makes sense. And PJ is actually bringing out a Sangan here to get another search in. And they're just passing. That's very interesting. I guess they've got 61-25, so it's like they're still decent. Oh, wow, that's a big punish. That's a big punish. Wow. So the Momonga crashes into the Sangan.
Killer squirrels.
Yep. And that makes sense if DK is playing a sort of rat box deck. Momonga's a pretty good target to bring out off of the rat. So that's going to be able to bring out.
Rat just gets better and better with each format.
Karibo is here as well, so they probably won't use the Karibo right now. Karibo's kind of interesting in a Flash Assailant deck, because there's kind of anti-synergy. Because if you're trying to get your hand down for the Flash Assailant, like, you want to save Karibo for the best possible time to use it. But Flash Assailant kind of forces the matter. So you're not always able to do
Chaser.
that. But yeah, that's gonna run over the Cannon Soldier there, so pretty good. But, you know, DK has equalized the life point game here, and so things are looking up for them quite a bit. Neither player has much back row to speak of, which is very interesting in this game. So I'm curious to see if they've just both drawn a bunch of monsters, or if they're just trying to protect it from spell and trap removal, because this format does have 3 MSTs, and those MSTs can be very tough to deal with. But
and
yeah,
here comes the squirrels.
Yep, and the Momongas, in addition to sort of gaining life points, it's also very nice to have them, because they can just ram into your opponent if they've got an empty board. And as is, this is basically like PJ's got to do something to defend themselves here, or else they might be dead, which is a pretty good option here. And the question is, do you even...
other use is about to show up again.
Which other use?
The life point gain.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Although, you know, if DK does have a Rush Recklessly, then who knows? I think, honestly, PJ maybe should have set the Witch here if they weren't going to attack. Oh, wow. Oh, yep, and that's the end. It wouldn't have mattered here anyways. But, yeah, that's hard to beat Change of Heart, Snatch Steal duo at the end of the game.
Duo.
But But yeah,
PJ was kind of doomed there anyway.
Yeah, tribute.
DK had control the entire time, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, there were parts of this game where I think PJ had the upper hand, but by the end of the game, with the change and the snatch, it was over. But let's dive in to one of these other games going on here. I should probably input the win as well, but let's just put on
1-0-0. I think it's Clody who won game 1 for this.
Oh, did Clody win?
Not the match.
Oh, for the Clody match. I just clicked into one randomly, so DK won that one.
Oh, yeah. Soul and Colgate are still on game 1.
Yeah, I just hopped into the Kesha and Danny game, which is in game 1 as well. Yeah. But again, YouTube chat, if there's a game that you guys want to see, let me know, because we can hop over to that quickly as well.
Chat's quiet today, though.
They are, but that's fine too. I'm good with all levels of engagement. But as long as people are enjoying themselves and watching some fun games, that's what matters.
Danny's hand, double faith, tomato, cannon, and Sangan, and cannon soldier's gone.
Yep. So, yeah, probably for the better here, because Danny's got some big OTK potential. Oh well, that will shut off a little bit of the OTK potential there.
Who was Snatch Stole? That was the chaser. Yeah. Yes.
It doesn't
a disadvantage of coming directly in.
Yeah, although it doesn't really make sense in most cases to snatch a tomato, because if you snatch the tomato, then your opponent runs over it, and then they get more value off of it. So
that's going to be a play in a later format.
No, well, it's potentially a play now, but
yeah, it's
not something that you want to play into. There are cases where it can be good to do that, and that will be the line, but for now, it's a bit less good. So, yeah. But Danny's just going to get out another tomato here, and Kesha's going to set one, pass back. So let's see what Danny does now. This is a bit of a tough board to deal with. What's Kesha gotten great? They got some very
Raigeki's done.
Yeah.
From Danny.
I feel, honestly, like Kesha has set a faith. And the reason for that is they know about Danny's faith. So I feel like they might be setting faith to bring back Change of Heart, and then they Change of Heart Danny's set faith, if Danny does set faith. And
he also knows that unless he draws a Change of Heart of his own, which he could, this faith is probably safe. And Danny's going for the set mod.
Yep, it is indeed the faith. So, yep, and that will be the... I mean, it's a bit... It's kind of awkward now, because Danny knows about the change if Kesha does indeed get back the change, right? So, it's like, do you even go for the change now that Danny's just going to play around it? Or do you just go for it because then that will threaten Danny? Or do you go for Forceful Sentry or something? So that way, like, you can hit over the faith.
He goes for the Sentry.
Yep.
There's two faiths though, so
yeah, this will only help
if
against
he gets rid of one.
But yeah, it's still a reasonable thing to do, I think, and also it will get that spell out of rotation, right? It will be back in the deck, of course, but like out of rotation is still pretty good. But I mean, if Kesha's got a Raigeki as well, that will be very good for them here. But I think that was
in the graveyard.
I think that was probably
there's the Raigeki.
Yeah. Which is pretty good. And also this does kind of like if Danny
and the faith is gone.
Yeah. And that could have been slightly risky because, Raigeki into Sangan, which Kesha knows that Danny has, but the Forceful Sentry actually enables them to deal with that as well. So, that's actually a pretty good play on Kesha's part here. And yeah, and they're making the best out of a kind of tricky hand from their opponent. So, very good playing here.
So, considering what's been done already, only one of these cards left in their hand is Sangan for Danny.
Yes, so there's a Sangan and a Faith, and it's unclear what the third card is. So there's still a couple options for that, but okay. Oh, the tomato hasn't been played, yeah, because Danny had a tomato on the field.
Yeah,
so
forgot about that.
Yep.
Yeah, Tomato, Sangan, 2 mystery cards.
Yeah. Well, no, because the Faith is in hand. Tomato, Sangan, Faith, and then a mystery card.
Oh, I see. You didn't activate Sentry yet. I'm being. The mystery card is a spell or trap.
The mystery, yeah. Which
if that's Faith, he can charge in or attempt to. And
yeah, I think
Sentry back whatever he gets back.
Yeah, I feel like it might be Faith, but it might honestly be.
It's Faith.
Yep, it is Faith. Yeah. I think it could potentially be the Sangan because I feel like you're more okay with Kesha forcefulling back a Sangan search than a Faith search. But like, I mean, if you figure that Kesha's just going to probably save the forceful for your Faith, you might as well get it out of the way now. So that way Kesha gets potentially less information here. So I guess that does make sense. So
and the Raigeki goes back into the deck.
Yeah, it goes back in deck.
As predicted.
Yeah, so it's not able to be looped with another Faith here. But it looks like Danny's used up 3 Faiths anyway, so honestly it is better for Danny that it's returned to deck here.
He'll maybe get another chance.
Yeah, although it's a bit of a tough spot that Danny's in. Kesha, I mean, both players have played this incredibly well, which makes sense because they're both very good duelists here. But I mean, things like this are why I'm honestly like decently okay with the inclusion of the 3 treasures in this format of like Forceful Duo and Comfy, because they can lead to some very interesting game states. They can also lead to people just getting completely blown out. But situations like this are really fascinating, and so I think they're really cool to see. But
Danny's decided to suicide.
Yep, which I mean is the right it's the right play here to crash with the Mech Chasers. And interesting that they brought out the Tomato instead of like the Sangan. But I guess
Dark Hole is still available.
Yeah, which is why I'm
multiple and one more Faith.
Yeah, which is why I'm kind of surprised that they brought out Tomato instead of Sangan. But I mean, either way, it's like a fine choice. I guess this like makes it more annoying for Kesha to attack in. But I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Kesha's going to set one and probably pass back unless they set a back row as well. And that's very scary. I think if you're Danny and you see that, I think that's kind of terrifying because I feel like if you're Kesha, what you're setting here is either a Sangan Witch or you're setting a Faith because there is still a Faith left in deck, as you said. Well, Boku, interesting. So maybe they're trying to play around like a trap hold or something, in which case Danny might get a very good turn here. They're going to go for the Sangan that Kesha knows about and start hitting in. And this is pretty good depending on what this set is. Oh, it's a Tomato.
It's Tomato.
Okay.
Tomatoes in gray.
Yeah, and since Tomato attacked, Danny wouldn't be able to do a crash here. But
he floated into Witch,
yep.
And that's the second Witch.
Yeah. And which is a pretty good pick here because Mechanical Chaser is kind of annoying for Danny to deal with what they've got right now. But Kesha might just like go sideways and like or
he has the Chaser himself.
Yeah, they've got the third Chaser, but Danny's got the Solemn for that.
Judgment.
That's very interesting here and very risky too because they are very low life points. But it could pay off for them, given that a lot of powerful cards are in Kesha's grave.
Reborn hasn't been used yet by Kesha.
Yeah, and that's the fear. If they reborn into the Mech Chaser, it could be kind of tough. But yeah, it's
all but game if he also has a hand of Dark Hole and Reborn.
Yeah, it is an interesting play here though. So I'm curious to see. Yeah, it's very interesting because I guess like Danny did not want to be put on the back foot, and also like you run the risk if you don't use the Solemn on the Mech Chaser that you won't have a way to actually deal with the Mech Chaser later, right? So because Raigeki and Dark Hole are both in the deck, but they're unsearchable, so it's kind of tricky. So I understand why they go for the Solemn Judgment there.
That's also Danny's last Tomato, and his only target left is the second Sangan.
Yeah, so kind of interesting here. I wonder if they're playing Cyberjar in their deck because I feel like something they could have done instead if they were just trying to like get rid of the Mech Chaser because they don't have an easy out to it. They could have searched out the Sangan potentially instead. Like search out a Cyberjar with the Sangan, that is, and then just use Cyberjar to clear the board, which also would be pretty good given Kesha's only got 10 cards left in deck. So, you can afford to potentially get 5 of them out of the way, potentially going for like a deck out victory, backed up by the Solemn. Summon Skull, very interesting. A lot of people don't actually play Skull in this format because they're just like more high value monsters to play that are less of a brick. But there is Snatch Steal in this format. There is Change of Heart. So and there's the Snatch
coming
Steal.
Down.
So let's see
if that an MST.
Yeah, if that's an MST, that would be pretty good. But nope, not the third MST. And it looks like Kesha will be able to take that tomato and likely hit over the Sangan here, unless that is something like a Trap Hole or another Solemn. Although if it was another Solemn, you'd think that they'd probably just go for...
It's being dealt with anyway.
Oh, yeah. And it was a Trap Hole. So this could be pretty bad for Danny, because if Kesha does have a Reborn...
No Reborn.
If Kesha does have a Reborn, this is the end of the game. They hit over the Sangan and then Reborn into the Cannon Soldier. So we'll have
or
to
Mechanical
see.
Chaser.
No, I mean after main phase.
Yeah.
Because...
I know. Oh, main phase. All right. You could also just...
The Reborn into Cannon Soldier is slightly safer, just in case Danny is playing Karibo. Like, we did see that that PJ was on Karibo, so it would be the safer play to Reborn into Cannon Soldier main too.
A little safer.
But yeah, there is a risk here. If Danny does have Change of Heart, then that will potentially be the end of the game. But it looks like they don't, and... Interesting. I guess they're not on the side.
No, there's the third MST. It's another MST.
I mean, that's something you see a lot in
the
this
MST.
format. But yeah, this will likely be the end of the game, and that's interesting. That makes me think that Danny is not on Cyberjar. And, I think that this game shows that, like, I think Cyberjar is a really powerful card. And I get it. Like, I wasn't on Cyberjar a lot in this format either because, like, there are some incredibly bad things that your opponent can get off of Cyberjar that you don't necessarily want to let them have. So it makes sense, but I do think that games like this do show the power of Cyberjar. So maybe I've just become...
Soul and Colgate are in game 2. Yeah. Soul just Raigeki Colgate, and he's getting a double search off of Witch and Sangan.
Oh, wow.
He's also very down on life points, so that's not a surprise with 4 cards set.
Interesting. So that's a game to potentially check out depending on how quickly this game goes. But yeah. We'll have to see how this one goes. I think it's interesting revisiting Treasure because I feel like I'm very like Android brained. Like a lot of, and there are like very different. There are major differences between Treasure and Android. I think even more so than Treasure and Imperial, because it's like a different mode of playing. Like the game definitely does shift, and you have to sort of shift your mindset as well. But Cyberjar is a very like vital card in Android and beyond because you need a searchable way to deal with Jinzo, which isn't as big of a deal in this format, which is why it doesn't necessarily see as much play here. But yeah, it's just something interesting to think about, like how subtle changes can really make huge differences.
And also, Clody and Dump Truck are in game 3.
Oh, okay. So
practically just started.
Maybe we picked the game that will wrap up the latest. But
I think it'll be Colgate and Soul. They're still in game 2.
Yeah. Well, this is on game 2.
Or unless Colgate wins quickly.
Yeah, this game just started on game 2.
Malevolent Nuzzler on Soul's part.
Ooh, that will be fun to watch later. If he
survives.
So it looks like we've got an equip deck in the tournament. Trap Hole on the Tomato, so that's cool to see. One of the most high value Trap Hole targets in the game is Mystic Tomato, so you're always happy when you can do that. But let's see what Kesha does to follow it up with here. Because that set card on Danny's part could also be a Trap Hole. You never know. But I guess we'll have to see.
Kill the tomato.
Yes.
I don't care about anything else. Just kill the engine card already.
Are you talking about a different game or?
No, the Trap Hole. I had to put my headset down.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, no. The Trap Hole on the tomato was pretty much as high value a play as you could make. But yeah, Witch is attacking in. That's a very good monster to have on field because just the replaceable monsters are so good. Like you're retaining your card advantage basically, even if your opponent hits into them. And card advantage in these formats are, in my opinion, a bit more valuable than field presence is because of the existence of things like Dark Hole and Raigeki. So, very, very good play to see here. Kesha sets one, which is very interesting because they don't have any spells
going defensive.
So it's likely not.
Could be Giant Soldier.
I feel like honestly, it's Tomato. Yeah, I feel like most likely it's Tomato because Witch can't hit over Tomato. So if Danny attacks into it, then Kesha's fine and Kesha's dodge trap hole. So honestly, if I was Danny here, yeah, just wall up, and then pass back to Kesha and let's see what
the game slows down.
Now, if that is a man-eater bug, which is, very bold play on Kesha's part, but honestly, I don't hate it because it could bluff your opponent. If that was man-eater bug, this could be really valuable because you flip man-eater bug, pop the set, but looks like it likely wasn't. So we'll see if Danny now has a man-eater bug of their own, because that would be very good too. Or not. It looks like they're both just content with the situation as is, and they're passing back and forth. So, which is something you see a lot in these older formats. Which I honestly think is one of their charm. I know that people don't necessarily like to see two duelists like just sitting across from the table saying go. But
Danny getting aggressive a little bit.
Yeah, they must have a Fisher or something.
It was Sangan.
Yep, Sangan. Yep. So Kesha will get a search there. And that's a pretty good Sangan because that managed to buy them a couple of turns. Just out of fear that it was like Tomato Stone or something that Witch couldn't get over. So that was very good. Good value there. Danny's going to set a second and pass back. And let's see what happens here. Kesha now has 7 cards in hand. So, both players have a lot of options here. Looks like they're going to set another. And now, it's very likely that that is a Tomato, right? Because, for the same reasons we were discussing earlier, where, if it's Tomato, Witch can't get over it. So, you dodge trap hole and stuff like that. It's very good here. So, and we do know that Kesha searched it, so it's very likely to be a Tomato. They could have also drawn into something like a Witch or a Sangan in the meantime. So it could be a Witch and Sangan. They're setting here is a little bit of a bluff to sort of like bait out removal. But it looks like Danny's going to attack into it again. It is indeed the Tomato. So now I'm expecting a Fisher out of Danny here because the reason they didn't attack before is because they knew about the risk that hitting into a Tomato here would have. So I'm expecting. Oh, interesting. They're not going to go.
No Fisher.
Interesting.
It's a slow game. I guess both duelists don't have enough resources or don't feel confident enough to go forward.
Yeah, and that's one of the big skills that people like. It does take a while in these formats to like know when to like go for it or not. But both Danny and Kesha have played enough of these old formats that they're pretty familiar with that skill. Like. In general, they know, I don't actually need to push forward here, and pushing forward is potentially the wrong move in a given situation. Whereas a lot of newer players are just like, I've got to always be doing something every turn. If I'm not doing something every turn, then I'm, falling behind. And that really isn't the case in these formats. But that's what makes duels like this, though, so cool to watch. Because, I don't know. It's just like very neat to see and something that you don't see in a lot of more modern formats. This sort of grind.
And even newer players don't see that something as simple as setting a card could be advancing the game state instead of just pushing.
Yeah, you don't need to go for attack every time. And this was a very good play on Kesha's part. You might wonder why they're summing out the Sangan and attack instead of setting it. But the reason for this is if Danny does have Fisher, which is a common card in this format, we saw it out of both players game 1, the Sangan guards against the Fisher. So very good play there. Mechanical Chaser will be able to potentially beat over the Sangan here, and it will indeed. So Kesha will get another search here. And now they are a bit vulnerable to the Fisher here. But we'll have to see if Danny's got the Fisher, because they didn't use it last turn. So interesting to think about. The Giant Soldier Stone's very nice. That does safeguard against the Mech Chaser. So very good pickup here on Kesha's part. Looks like Danny's thinking in main 2. They do indeed have
And there's the fissure.
Yep. And I think that is...
Or they finally drew it.
Yeah, so either they drew it, like, recently, or they had it the other turn. They're just like, we don't need to use it yet. We'll have to see. Looks like we've got...
Kesha has a small issue. Never mind, he has a duo.
Yep, duo is very good in this format. So, very good to see, even later in the game.
Tomato's gone. And that's the second tomato.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just answering a question that someone's asking me. But, yep, tomato and stone. So, interesting that they're discarding stone. Seems like they're pretty confident in their aggressive position if they're getting rid of that, which, they can be, given that they're playing Solemns. We saw that in game 1, so, they might have a safeguard against Raigeki here.
Kesha also seems to have a small resource issue, not in having too little, but in having too much. He now has 7 cards in hand.
Yeah, but when...
And never mind, he fixes it with the Reborn.
Yeah, Reborn is very good here, although there aren't as many high targets, to get back with it, but...
The danger is having too many cards in hand means he'd have to set a spell or trap other than a monster if he didn't have those 2 cards. And that would... there's the Waboku.
Yep, Waboku is a very interesting card in this format. It is a card that, decks can shave.
Clody beat Dump Truck.
Oh, Clody beat Dump Truck? Perfect.
Yeah. As I was saying, having too many cards in hand and not enough ways to get rid of them means you have to discard something.
Yeah, but it's...
if you do set something, you risk a heavy. Right now, it's 2/2, which means...
No, but you can always bring out a monster, is the thing. Like, Kesha hadn't...
That's what I mean.
Kesha hadn't normal summoned or set that turn. And a lot of the monsters in the format do float, so it's generally not that big of an issue. But it
can be.
It definitely can be. But it generally isn't as bad, this format, as it might be in others.
There's the thing.
That's really good.
Will he loop?
Looks like
he
are
loop.
getting back the duo. And this is interesting because I feel like it might have been better to attack in first before going for duo here. Because, the idea is you want to duo potentially the cards that they search. But, I mean, the idea could also be, you have the read that Danny is, potentially going to figure that you have the Faith set because you didn't flip it up to attack with. So, it makes sense to do the duo now because you don't want them to search out cards to fill up the hand and give them more options to discard.
Faith and Snatch Steal.
But, yeah, Faith and Snatch Steal, those are pretty high-value hits off that duo. But Danny now will be able to replenish a bit of the hand that they lost here. So, that is a bit unfortunate. Yeah. Let's see what they search here. It's kind of tricky. I feel like you could... if they've got another stone, that's a pretty decent search. But that Kesha's on Summon Skull. So it's kind of risky as well. Yeah, tomato probably is a good choice, even though, you're 2 tomatoes down. It's probably better to search the tomato, now actually, because if you're 2 tomatoes down already, then the 3rd tomato is kind of a brick later in the game. So you want to get out of your deck as fast as possible, so that way you do still have targets left to use with it.
And there's the pot.
Pot of Greed is very good here, especially after that duo. You're neutralizing the card advantage that Kesha gained from that a little bit.
Looping the duo to rip.
Maybe they'll loop the pot to get back that advantage.
As paying 2,000 for nothing.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. And now Kesha has more cards. So if Danny has drawn Storm, it's time to think, does he want to use it now?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think you necessarily have to use Storm here.
Unless
I
you
think
want
I think
to.
if you are planning on going for a push, maybe, but
There's the sentry.
beforehand.
Well,
Sentry's
now
very
no
good.
Kesha's hand.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And with that many cards in hand, Sentry is especially nice. So, yeah, very good draw there. Although off the pot, I assume you'd get a couple good draws, right? But we'll have to actually see. Oh, the Mirror Force. So it looks like they are potentially going to go for an aggressive push sometime soon.
He has another Mechanical Chaser, Giant Soldier of Stone, and an MST.
Yep, Trap Hole in the Chaser there makes sense.
Yep. Suicide the Faith.
I mean, you
Next
could.
turn for Kesha.
Honestly, it might be the move because if Kesha has like access to Cannon Soldier in the coming turns, which they don't now, but if they do eventually, it could be decent.
And now Danny has more cards set with that one.
Yep. Although, as I said, when both players have these heavies on field, or not heavies, when they've got a fair amount of back row on the field, you don't necessarily want to go for the heavy now, especially because, it's not a game-winning push, at least definitely not on Kesha's part yet. So, yeah, you can just play around Mirror Force like they're doing here.
And we also know that Kesha, even if he drew heavy, he has MST in hand.
Oh, yeah, there's Mirror Force.
There's the Mirror Force that just got set.
Yeah. If you know about MST, it can make some sense to do this because you're just playing around the MST a little bit. So, yeah.
Now, Kesha going on the defensive.
But, I mean, I don't even, it's interesting because a set card here isn't even necessarily, going on the defensive. It's just not committing too much into Mirror Force, which is pretty neat to think about. MST on one of the
He already used Mirror Force.
No, I know, but you're making the decision main phase 1, right? You're making the decision main phase 1 to not play into Mirror Force, and then you go into the battle phase, attack into C, and then main phase 2 you set. Next turn you can potentially flip up that set and attack in, right? So that's what I meant by, not playing into Mirror Force.
Okay, got it.
Defensive. But
we're now back in a lull, though.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on what Kesha's set,
gone.
because that set could be very high impact here if it's a flip monster. It could also be like a witch, because, they've gone through 2 Sanguins, but they haven't gone through their witches yet.
It's safe if it's witch either way, even if Danny still had Mirror Force.
Yeah. So it probably wouldn't have been, it probably is not a witch here. It's a very good point. Could be a tomato potentially. And if it's tomato, they're going for the MST.
Another MST.
I think that makes a lot of sense because, you know that Danny knows that you've got the MST. So,
that's the second trap hole as well.
Yep. And very good to snipe trap hole here. Now they can feel very safe. Getting a bit more aggressive here.
It's comfortable now. You can just summon whatever you want.
Interesting. Still not flipping the set. Oh, there they go. Yeah. Okay, so it's stone. So, they're getting very aggressive with that.
But grinding him out a bit. And is that the second? It's Maneater.
Bug, yeah, that's pretty good. Deals with the Mech Chaser there, but I mean, it seems like Kesha's got a way to protect the stone here. So
most likely,
we'll have to see. Danny doesn't have the MST. But if it's Waboku, then this works out really well. Yep, it's Waboku. Very good. Yeah, so that worked out very well for Kesha.
And now Kesha can switch stone to defense.
Exactly. So this worked out perfectly for Kesha. Danny's only real choice here is to just set a monster if they've got one, because, what else are you going to do on this?
He used the Mechanical Chaser we already knew Kesha had.
Oh, they're summoning tomato.
He can just summon something.
I guess they're doing that because, they know that Kesha knows that they added the tomato to hand, right? So, they can feel safe revealing that information. It does, however, play.
And it was a mistake.
Well, so the reason they do this is because Giant Soldier Stone can hit over tomato. They might not really have any good targets left in
deck. Don't you mean tomato can hit over stone?
No, in defense. We're talking about why Danny didn't potentially set the tomato, right? So
also true.
The reason they might have summoned it was because, first of all, they know that Kesha doesn't have trap hole set because empty back row. And in addition, Soldier can potentially hit over the tomato. They didn't necessarily have the most ideal targets left in deck, so I think that made a bit of sense there. Maybe not the play I would have made, but like I can respect the reasoning behind it.
Yeah. And going a little more aggressive, though, he got punished for it with the chaser.
Yeah. The chaser did hit over the stone. And now Ketcha did not have a Fisher here. So we'll have to see what happens.
He might. He does not.
Well, I mean, yeah, they could have extra Fishers, but it's unclear.
At this point, we have no idea what's in either player's hand.
Yeah, which is exciting. Like even with these sort of the hand rips that are available, it's like the game can really shift very quickly. So we'll have
thankfully
to see.
They're at 1. Treasure would be so much worse if Duo were in 2.
Well, we do have that option of a channel in our Discord for playing MRL format, which is the version of the game with the hand rips all at 3, which is very interesting. So that's something to potentially check out if you're interested in what that would look like. We have actually explored it a little bit, and it's neat. I do think it's neat. I will say that.
It's a nightmare.
But I mean, I don't know. People do enjoy it, so.
I know. I'm making a joke.
Yeah.
Small little joke. It is a nightmare, though. Stay away. Play it if you want to.
Yeah. I do think it's better than jar format. I'll say that. Which may be a controversial take on my part, but like jar format for people that don't know is the
try MRL with 3 morphing jar.
No, I refuse.
And 3 cyber jar.
I refuse. I mean, first of all, it's not the reason I did the way I did was just because like there isn't like so much historical basis for it because like technically, tournament records from around that time are kind of scarce, and the cards wouldn't be tournament legal until the ban list came out and stuff like that. But
they played them anyway.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of my philosophy behind doing that is like when the cards come out, technically, I guess people could potentially have gotten their hands on them, played with them in these sort of maybe not officially competitive settings, but just played with them without the limited list hitting them first. So that's why I cover those. I do think they're pretty interesting to see. So it's very cool.
Also shows us why these cards are hit in the first place. Though there's exceptions, like Upstart Goblin isn't really that good in MRL. Useful, but not really limit worthy.
Yeah.
That comes later.
Yeah, exactly. There aren't really many decks that can super take advantage of Upstart. There are some, but Upstart's limit is probably the least justified limit early on in the TCG's history.
It's OCG based.
No, I know, but that's why I'm
saying... The May 2002 OCG list is highly influential.
Yes, but that's why I was saying in the TCG. Because,
yeah, I know. I'm helping you with that point. Yeah.
But, yeah, on this channel, we're mainly focusing on just the TCG because going through the OCG would add a ton more formats to cover. And, there's already a lot to cover on its own in the TCG, so...
There's an OCG channel anyway. OCG Archives. Yes, I'm shilling for you, Dreamer.
No. And that's a pretty fun Discord server to join if you're interested in OCG games. So, good stuff there. But Danny's in a very good command of the board here.
Soul has beaten Colgate. They went to Game 3. Soul came back.
Okay. Good
nice.
To see. We've got 2 intense matches going on right now. But... yeah, I think that Danny might have this one on lock. It's kind of tricky. There are things that Ketcha can do to come back potentially, but yeah, it's a bit rough.
It's hard.
Yeah. This might be going to Game 3, especially depending on what the set is.
Okay.
Ketcha hasn't used Raigeki or Dark Hole yet, though. So if they do have that, now is likely the time to use it.
Clody and DK are... about to enter Game 2. They're in siding.
Oh, okay.
1-0. I think Clody won. It's hard for me to tell.
Ooh, that's a really good move from Kesha here. That could potentially get them back in the game a little bit, even if they are still in like the worst position overall. Oh, wow. Hitting over a set Cannon Soldier. That is the punish for just, bring out a monster on field in the face of like board clears or other sorts of situations that can happen, like what happened now.
Ow.
Yeah.
Colgate had to mandatory search for Sangan, and he would have top deck Pot of Greed.
Oh, wow.
Ow.
Yeah. But,
Aim.
Yep, there goes the tribute of the Chaser to deal 500. And Kesha does not have to worry about these tomatoes in grave, which is very nice, which is why they can feel comfortable just bringing out this Cannon Soldier. And no Chasers left either. So now the big thing that Danny can do to get aggressive over that cannon is if they've got Reborn. But actually, this might be Kesha's game here. Darkhold will clear the Cannon Soldier, though. So that will effectively do it. They do have a Reborn as well, so that might very well be the end of the game, depending on what Kesha's set is here. So
it could be Mirror Force.
It could be Mirror Force. It could also be Waboku, I believe.
It is
indeed Waboku. So they survive one more turn. Very, very intense here. Let's see what they could potentially draw. They could potentially draw a number of removal cards. Change of Heart would be decent, although, without the Cannon Soldier. Pot of Greed gives them more chances to draw into what they need. Wow, very intense game here. A very intense game going on. Yeah, matches in this format really do get intense, DL with it. Which is part of why I love this format so much. I know a lot of people hate on it because they're like, oh, it's just worse Critter and stuff. And, most formats don't compete with Critter when it comes to like complexity because Critter is just such a tricky format. But I do think that Treasure had its own charm, and it's not. It does feel very different to me, at least, from Critter. And that does give it its
continuity.
Own charm. There's
continuity.
No, there definitely is. But I'm sort of responding to the fact that people say it's just rip off Critter, which it definitely is not, in my opinion. There's a lot of very interesting interplay. A lot of decks that are viable that are kind of surprising. Like, I do think that Clown Control is actually viable. Oh, yep. And there's the Fisher to get rid of that Mechanical Chaser. And this is looking very good for Kesha again. Oh, and the Robin Goblin. Whoa. That is a big swing from Kesha here.
Kesha is all but one. This is GG.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what that top deck is. Duo wasn't really helping Danny here much, but that Faith really hurts to lose. Wow.
Basically, if the top deck has to be...
There's not really a good top deck.
Get your Dark Hole,
no
Snatch
doesn't
Steal.
do it. That doesn't
None
do it
of it
because
does it.
It clears the Witches, and then Kesha gets another search. And if they've got a Tomato left in deck, very likely. So, yeah, the only thing that can really... Yeah, there's nothing really that Danny can get here that can get them out of it, except for a bigger monster, but it seems like they've likely used up all of those unless they've got another Soldier of Stone. So
that's probably the only thing left that saves him.
Yeah. I mean, Man-Eater Bug would potentially buy them a turn.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, depends if the monster's drawn or not.
I mean, that is what happened. Yeah, deal with it. I 100% agree. Like, the hand rips are the bitterest pill to swallow about this format, and it's what turns a lot of people off. Painful's very interesting here, but it might not help. But
it's GG.
It probably is, because there's probably not 5 cards left in deck that all deal with this board. But yeah, so the hand rips are very annoying to deal with, and like if you do get hand rip turn 1, it really hurts, and it's like, that's so frustrating.
Worse if you get looped with Faith.
Oh yeah, and they can be potentially looped as well.
It's the worst thing about this format.
Yeah, but I mean, it's something that can also happen in later formats occasionally. And I do think that like most of the time you're not getting just completely entirely hand ripped like the first turn of the game. Most of the time the games do turn into very good games. But yeah. Yeah, 5 cards with 1100 defense. That's what Danny needs. But looking at this graveyard,
it's unlikely.
I don't think they have it.
Danny's admitting.
Yep.
Though he hasn't officially admitted.
Yeah, but it is very likely. But very intense games here. Very cool. And also, Painful Choice is a very interesting card in Treasure. I actually am not convinced that it's like very good. Like it's fine, but I feel like
It's solid.
yeah, it's like not
Like
bad. It's just like
even
you
in
know.
the OCG, Painful Choice isn't really that good until Sinister Serpent is just dropped.
I mean, I think that Painful Choice gets good Imperial format on. Like next
Yeah.
format, I think Painful's like, yeah, this card's like definitely
Yeah.
a must include.
By then, we have a lot more targets, but I'm speaking specifically. Painful Choice starts coming into decks when Serpent is brought out because people
Not in the
realize,
TCG, but
not the CCN, saying OCG example.
yeah,
Oh, you can just dump
but
3 Serpents, a charity,
and there are
and a card
there
for your
are
strategy.
some sort of parallels between. Oh wait, you said that Colgate and Soul were.
They finished.
Oh, they finished as well. Okay.
Soul beat Colgate. I said Soul came back.
Oh, okay, yeah. I just saw that. So Soul beats.
Sorry for bringing up the OCG. I'm just helping you with this.
No
how
worries.
they saw it as well.
So
they
there we
saw
go.
this, like the Cannon Burn that won the Asia Championship in 2000, which innovated this deck. 3 Serpents, Charity, Ultimate Offering, because he also played Mask of Darkness and Magician of Faith. Using, even in Treasure, you can do this with 4 spells and Magician of Faith.
You can. It's just a lot less good. Like it's
a lot less good than what you can get later.
I honestly think that it was like I made a video on Painful Choice just in a variety of formats.
Yeah.
And I feel like Painful in Treasure, like you can go all in for the Painfuls, just stacking up the graveyard with power spells and then Faith one back, but that's really telegraphed. And it also like deprives you of a bunch of power spells that you really do want to draw late in the game. So I'm really not the biggest fan of that, especially because there's so many ways to disrupt it. So, I mean, it is something that people do. So it's not the worst, but it's still not the best either. But yeah, deal with it's exactly right as well. You know,
Momonga being very useful in the DK Clody game.
Oh yeah. And Clody's very down on life points here. Half of DK's life points, but in terms of card advantage, they're doing very good. So we'll actually see if that life point gain will buy enough time to offset this year.
And once again, killer squirrels.
Yeah, I mean, the Momongas are very decent in Treasure and Imperial and stuff. Like they're deck thinners. You know, they gain you some life points to buy you a little bit more time. And they can be used defensively, as we did see earlier on in this stream. So, yeah, very, very innovative inclusion on DK's part. And it looks like Clody is not going to tribute with the canceled, which I think does make some sense here.
Maybe they will.
Maybe they will. They're still thinking.
He Rat Rush in hand. I see. He played Confiscation. Probably turn 1.
Yeah. So the thing is that like this is telegraphing that they very likely do have a way to deal with the rat, because otherwise you're just summoning out rat to get a free crash off the cannon. So not the best here. It looks like they are indeed going for it. So it looks like they might not have a way to deal with the rat after all.
This is the way to deal with it.
Well, no, what I meant was if they're leaving Cannon Soldier on field, then they've got like Trap Hole or Mirror Force or something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I understand. This is just the way to deal with it.
Yeah,
get rid of the ranning, and just let him keep the rat.
Yes, like this is what you do if you don't have Trap Hole or Mirror Force. It's just very much telegraphing that fact to DK, which lets DK basically hit in without fear, which is pretty good. But
sometimes you just have to let that happen.
Yeah, deal with it. I 100% agree. Like I'm also of this mind. Like deal with it says I find it funny that people send their power spells when you could use Painful Choice to deck thin by 5 and just leave power spells in deck. And I mean that's my philosophy 100%. Like these games grind on so long that like it honestly is just better to deck thin and leave them in deck. So that way, like I mean,
a silly little thing you can do. Yeah. Sorry for interrupting. A silly thing you could do, like. I know a lot about the OCG, but when they had 3 pain...
Raigeki's big here. Hitting that potential Man-Eater bug that Clody searched.
Probable Man-Eater. Wait, what? Oh, he also did Confiscation. Mecha, Bug in Hand. Yeah. It was Faith.
It's a Faith! Oh, wow, that's even better, arguably.
Ooh.
I mean, the bug is still around to hit the rat later, which is, pretty good for Clody. But yeah, that really does hurt. That hurts.
Yeah.
And Clody
what was
knows
I
that that's a
saying?
top deck too.
Yes. Oh yeah. About that point in the OCG when Serpent was released and they realized Serpent was really good. Oh, something you can do. Also, since Painful Choice, once you've dumped your Serpents as a brick, you can also dump all 3 Serpents and the rest of the Painfuls.
Yeah. Which never
and
really
just thin
was,
your deck that way.
Yeah, which never really was a thing here because we didn't have 3 Painfuls or Serpents available at the same time. But in Silly Snake format, where there are 3 Serpents, that definitely is a very important thing that can happen. Yeah, hit face feel great.
It's more of a high swing.
Wow!
Well,
Duo is
big.
Wow. Duo is really good here.
Oh wait, did he overpay?
No. They missed put in the.
Yeah, I just want to say, did he overpay?
Yeah.
He overpaid.
But
that's big.
That is huge. That is wow.
So,
there's still plenty.
It's a bit of also desperate move.
Oh, it is. It is kind of, it's very risky on Clody's part here, but it's not quite a desperate move. You kind of have to do it because they know about the Rush Recklessly, and Rush Recklessly can allow the rat to hit over the chaser. So this is this is the move that they had to do.
It's still a bit desperate. Look at the life points.
Oh, for sure, but
it's huge.
But yeah, it's. I mean, I guess a move can be desperate while also being the correct move, but definitely is correct. This turn, I mean, I think they just set bug, right? That's what makes sense to me because
Raigeki was used.
Oh, Fisher. Oh, Fisher's even better. Yeah.
Yes, don't even have to set the bug yet.
I think you might still do. No, you still do.
Dark Hole.
If DK has Dark Hole, you lose either way.
Yeah.
Right. So you just set the bug now.
If he has a monster.
Yeah, but it's likely. Let's go, Dream Clown. Clown Control. Unfortunately, that will
more
eat
rat
the
toolbox.
I think honestly,
the Momongas. Oh, that's bad.
Wow. Okay, this is crazy. Duo should have been printed to cost 2,000. To be fair, I don't know. I think the 1,000 cost is honestly fine for Duo, given that a lot of the time the choice aspect of it on your opponent's part is generally pretty good. But
GG?
Wow. Oh,
no,
not quite. And this is actually
Giant
very
Soldier saves him.
This is very worrying because if DK has a Mech Chaser, which they still got Mechanical Chasers in deck likely, Clody just loses the game.
Rat
will prevent Clody from losing here, but it's still a bit rough. DK might not even. No, he is just attacking into the Sangan here. I think that is probably correct. Just drop them down to 450.
Necessary.
Cannon Soldier just kills them here. DK's Cannon Soldier's in grave, but this is just making sure that Reborn will kill. So
we interrupted your previous point. Basically, how insane this went.
Oh yeah,
sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, we're at. That Pot of Greed is very good. I mean, that is a Poggers play right here. For the Pog card.
Raigeki. Did he draw Raigeki?
Raigeki would.
Please tell me he drew Raigeki.
Raigeki would win. Honestly, I think if you drew Fisher, just Fisher the Stone and try getting aggressive here. Yeah.
Fisher.
Yeah, Fisher the Stone. Hit over the rat. Like, what scary targets are left in deck?
Does he have double Fisher? Unlikely, but.
Well, if Clody does have double Fisher, they do. No, they
no,
can't.
He doesn't. 3 Fisher. Yeah.
But yeah, you just hit over the rat because what's the worst target that DK could have in deck? A Clown? Like, that's fine. Clown's defense pops 1 chaser, but you're still buying yourself turns and I mean
buying turns.
The potential risk
also,
here is your deck thinning. But I think you just kind of got to go for it because if you don't attack in, then you're letting DK deck thin
no targets?
a turn at a time.
No targets.
Oh wow, okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah. The thing also, Momanga has saved DK.
Oh yeah,
he'd be dead by now.
Yeah, DK would have lost the game by now. But
Failed
DK might still lose the game. There's still its time.
Yes.
The one thing that saves DK here is if they draw Reborn. Reborn will kill Clody instantly. Also, if they draw Dark Hole, that can buy them some time.
And that's probably a Man-Eater.
Yep, very likely. So we'll have to see what happens here. Yeah, Giant Soldier is basically like Labyrinth Wall that can actually attack. It's a... I mean, that's why people don't really play Labyrinth Wall in this format. It's like cool that you can bring it out off of Rat. Like, that's pretty neat. But
MST.
that MST is very good here.
GG.
They drew the clown earlier. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
you usually play one copy anyway.
Yeah, that was the last target.
Yeah. Rat tool. This is like Rat tomato mix.
Yeah. And
recruiter control, not quite the toolbox yet.
Yeah,
Imperial is when you can really start.
Yeah.
Hayabusa.
Even when Hayabusa is first introduced, I don't think it's necessarily good.
It's okay.
It's like fine.
It's
but
okay.
It does get a lot better. I mean, I'm gonna be making a video on Enjoy Pegasus very soon once I get the duel for that, and I have high hopes for Enjoy Pegasus. I think it is pretty decent there because you've got like a lot of ways to dig through your deck very quickly.
You saw the replay that I had with Dumb Truck.
Yes, I did.
Basically obliterated him.
Yeah. And that can happen. That can happen. I mean, the deck is like very good at filtering through to get to its win condition very quickly once you've got like the Graceful Charities. And so, it's very good in that regard. And the Scapegoat also buys you some time to,
and sets up the OTK.
Yeah,
basically,
it does.
So many angles to OTK or wipe the life points out.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. It's very good. But that's
better than an Android.
Yes,
much better where the OTK exists, you have fewer vectors.
Yeah, which is why an Android is honestly better, in my opinion, to just go for the sort of Megamorph aggro build as opposed to the Hayabusa aggro build.
In the Android tournament, I played Rat Toolbox Squirrels. It could OTK, but it was more about using giant rat and squirrels to thin through the deck.
Oh, and here's Muka potentially showing some value here. We did see this inclusion earlier in their deck, and we were like, that's kind of weird.
Oh, actually, yes. He'll draw.
It actually
does. He'll draw to 2100. Like Muka is decent in Rat Toolbox. Yeah, even in Imperial.
It's just tricky. It's just tricky because of the hand rips. The hand rips really do hurt Muka a lot. So I'm not the biggest fan of Muka for that reason.
It's okay. Like it falls off an Android.
Yeah, Chloe does have to fisher this.
And then a final rebirth in Silly Snake. It pairs very well.
Is this critter format?
Yes.
Well, I mean, the Mukas would make you think so. Yeah. But as many detractors of the format would say, it basically is, but I don't actually think it is very similar. But
fearing the chaser
and the fall of the Muka. And Robin. Robin's very good here. Yep, you got to mirror force that. That makes sense.
Sorry, I'm being way too excited.
No, it's exciting. I mean, I think that I'm very excited as well because this has been intense. This is this match. I mean, we only jumped in game 2 and then into game 3. But this
they
match
have
been
no idea
crazy.
What we're talking about
awesome
right now.
Match, awesome gameplay, and I mean, I think it really does show that Treasure can be a blast to watch and a blast to play. It looks like Clody's gonna get some discards in as well.
All right, now I remember. So Clody's playing actual just hand control, no goblins needed.
But yep, that will discard a Heavy Storm there. They're going to set 2 because, the Heavy's gone. But also, if DK has another Heavy, what are they going to do? Heavy their Robin. Yeah, and this is a pretty neat move. They know that Mirror Force is gone, so they can pretty effectively clear away the White Magical Hat here, potentially. The one risk is if, Clody has, Rush Recklessly, which we haven't seen out of them. So they might not have it. But Rush Recklessly isn't bad in the hand control deck. You can buff up that White Magical Hat, so it'll be interesting to see. But right now, DK is pretty clear to just go in and attack. Oh, they're gonna Reborn just in case. I think that makes sense to do this now. Oh, the Mirror Force is gone. So
update: Kesha and Soul are still in game 1.
Okay.
The Soul has just played Painful Choice. Raigeki. Change of Heart, Sentry, Darkhole, Raigeki, and Judgment are his options.
Those are very interesting set, but Yeah. There's the
like they've played a lot of cards. Oh,
DL
Soul is also on Equip Aggro.
DL has
Yep.
a funny
So,
point. There's the treasures, and then there's the less shiny treasures with Hat and Goblin. I think that's definitely a funny way to call them, and they are true. It's like oftentimes, one of the reasons why I'm not too big on hand control in treasure format is because there's cards that hand control anyways. Like the Robin and the White Magical Hat do seem like overkill in a lot of cases, but they can get the job done in a lot of times.
Yeah.
So
it can be a bit overkill, but at the same time, you're destroying the opponent's hand.
Yeah, I think it's
even with the risk. Like, this is something we don't really agree on. Yeah. And I consider Goblin Control basically a top 5 deck in this format.
I think it's
even with the swinginess of it.
It's kind of, so the reason why I don't think it's like one of the best decks in the format is because it basically is like playing a regular deck but less good. It's playing some suboptimal cards in there in addition to all the good stuff. So like it can definitely win. Like, it can win games. I'm not saying that, but like it's just like you could play it, or you could play a deck that's playing things that allow you to get out of tricky situations when the good stuff parts of your deck happen not to work, right? So that's why I think that like hand control in treasure is like just less good than it would otherwise be.
Okay, I'm now back, and we're in the middle of another tomato war.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Let's see what.
Yeah, DK gets to search first. Oh no, DK's attacking. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this works.
Yep. I figured that out when double cannon.
Yep, this will
going
crash,
to get in with the Momonga.
I mean, that's what you got to do if you're getting aggressive here.
Look at DK's life points. A robust 8,600. This is the main reason Momonga is useful. Now he has to pop the 100, but
I think
he's about to get the 1,000 more.
I think the life point gain is very important, but I think the main reason why Momonga is useful is because, deck thinning, walling up, and also, getting to get offensive here. I mean, that's what DK is doing with the Momongas, and it's paying off.
Remember, though, this is treasure format.
Yes.
Right now, explosiveness isn't really that much of a thing.
Which is why the Momongas are a bit better here. In terms of that regard, right? Because you're able to get explosive with them.
I think they're just really good all around. It's not going to be until like the Yada format, in which they're going to no longer be like
another hat. So this will enable Clody to get in here and discard. Deal in the discard.
It's not going. It's not going to be until like Yada format, where Momonga goes from this like B tier card into like C or D tier, because Momonga's useful, but what are you going to do with having your hand ripped to pieces?
In terms of the Momonga, I mean, well, we can get into the Momonga debate later. That's kind of like for a different format.
Different format, yeah, it's insane.
But I wanna comment on something that DL with it says in the YouTube chat, which is very funny. They say still find it so funny that some people consider playing 1,500 attack monsters just to win the tomato wars, and that is a very. I agree. I'm not the biggest fan of that strategy because it's like you win the tomato wars, but you've lost the general. You've lost the general game. Oftentimes you'll draw the 1,500 garnet, outside of the tomatoes, and you'll just kick yourself. Like, damn.
Some decks can actually do this. Like, even though this deck is probably trash at this point, dragons do improve significantly.
Yes,
because
but
you no longer have to just
I mean, when you can play when you say like some decks can do this, it's like, any deck could technically do it if they you could throw together a pile of cards with a bunch of 1,500 attack dark monsters. It doesn't necessarily mean when I say like decks in this format, I only really consider decks that I actually think are like viable in this format. And unfortunately, I don't think dragons are viable in treasure. There's just too many things that disrupt its combo. Like, I mean, hand rips could just rip apart the Lord of D, flute, blue eyes combos. You got things like tomato, which float into other things in battle, so that like stops the aggressive push a little bit more. You just got so many things going against the dragon deck that I don't quite think it's that good here.
Would
But,
you cry, DL, if
oh
you
well,
drew a 1500 vanilla?
yeah, draw 1500 vanilla, proceed to cry.
And
Yep, that will
hand
be
control demolishes DK.
yeah. Very very good here. Although it's interesting because the cards that they were discarding, honestly, not very good for the game state that they were in. It was just forceful, duo, and then a heavy earlier on. So, it's kind of funny. But yeah, very interesting game. We had two decks playing a sort of hand control aspect in addition to the treasures, and it was cool to see. Deal with it. That's absolutely right. Dragons will have their time to bounce back with Super Rejuvenation. I'm not sure that deck will be like super good in LOD format and fiber format, but I am planning on showing it off because it will be very neat to sort of see what the new tools do for the deck.
I discard 7 dragons. I activate Raigeki and attack with Spirit Ryu.
Yeah.
Or in reverse.
And that would be
the jankiest OTK possible.
And it is
hilarious.
Somewhat, I mean, it's very, very unlikely, but it is technically possible.
But someone should do it and put it on YouTube someday.
Yeah, maybe that will be me. Who can say? But we've got our first finalist here in the form of Clody. And
stop winning these tournaments.
Yeah, well,
even though you didn't actually win the last tournament,
but they made it to finals every time with these locals. That's why they're the first local legend. But neither Soul,
Kesha and Soul.
Yeah,
I think Kesha won.
Kesha won the first game, but now we've got to see what the second game will bring because they're both going into siding here, and this will be very interesting. So Kesha and Soul both have not won a locals yet, which makes sense. We've only had 2 so far.
Isn't this Kesha's first?
This is Kesha's first locals playing, yeah. So they've done pretty well for their first locals, but again, they're very active in these old formats, so very good.
Android lover. Hosting Jinzo Jackers too.
Yep, there will be a tournament held in the Format Library Discord starting in 2 weeks, I believe. So, and that'll be in Joey Pegasus format, which is, that's what I'm ostensibly covering, although the last couple, videos I've done have just been these live streams for the locals, really. But yeah, that will be very fun. I'm planning on joining that. And, I mean, if you've enjoyed the videos that I've done on Joey Pegasus, that's the perfect time to jump into the format and try it out. But a turn
Soul
one
went
painful.
with the 4-spell Faith option, and Kesha went with Faith.
Soul's deck is so based. Yeah, I mean, Blah mentioned earlier that they were on Nuzzler potentially, so I'm very excited to see how this game goes here. I have massive respect for you for even if you lose to a deck saying that it's based. I mean, I'm of a similar mindset. I feel like it's good just to acknowledge how cool an opposing deck can be.
It's Colgate.
Yeah.
Your toothpaste is wonderful.
Yeah. So very good. Tribute to the Doomed on the Magician of Faith. Very, very good here. That would have been very nasty. And this is what I was mentioning with, I'm not a big fan of sending a ton of really good spells off of Painful because it just really does telegraph this Faith play. And, if your opponent has something to deal with that, like that Tribute, you're just kind of out of luck there. So
you can do it if you have something to bait a Change of Heart or a Tribute to the Doomed and not set Faith right away. It requires a bit of patience, though.
You definitely can do that, but it's still a bit iffy because then I mean, I don't know. I'm just not a fan of the combo. I think there are too many ways to disrupt it, and if you don't go for it right away, that's fine. That's still okay. But I mean, your opponent still knows it's coming, so they're gonna keep playing around it every time. So and sometimes they won't be able to play around it, sure, but I don't know. It's just not the best
this time.
Yeah, I mean, but we'll see if
he had 2 faiths.
Well, we'll see if Kesha has a Comfy or a Forceful or something like that to deal with that pot. But if you got 2 faiths, that's a good amount of insurance there. We'll have to see if they actually do have something to do here.
It can work. It's the sad thing is, it's probably the best play with Painful unless you're playing something like Dark Elf Megamorph, in which you can just send a Megamorph or a Dark Elf and set up the play for later.
Yeah, although I think in this format, Jiraiya Gumo is honestly better than Dark Elf in terms of going for those sorts of plays. But deal with it. They mentioned that their deck was very interesting. I do want to bring that up as well because I didn't get to feature it because we were covering some other games at the time. But they were actually playing Big Eye in their deck. It's Big Eye technology, and I think that's a really neat inclusion. Like Big Eye's a really cool card. It basically like lets you stack the top of your deck and see what's coming.
Raigeki.
But
that's a bit early though.
Yeah, very interesting that they're going for the Raigeki now on the Mech Chaser. So
honestly,
they must have some other plans coming on the way. Heavy Storm going to deal with that back row, but it's a Wuboku, so very very valuable Wuboku there.
Yes.
For Soul. Catch at least has the pot.
A bit early, in my opinion.
Confiscation's pretty good.
The Storm.
Yeah, the Storm.
Yeah.
They must have had some big plans here, but
can't do it for now.
Yeah. It looks like the Wuboku will stop that a little bit.
He ripped the Change of Heart.
That's very good. Yeah, being able to hit a Change of Heart out, and they also do know the rest of the hand as well now. Yeah. Oh, that stinks. Yeah, Big Eye. Well, it's good to know that that the Big Eye was an MVP of the deck. Because Deal With It says, if anything, I lost because I couldn't resolve enough Big Eye. And that's good to know. So
he does know the amount of what's in his hand other than what he just drew.
Yes.
Shuffle your hand, by the way.
Yeah, that's why hand shuffling is somewhat important here, especially with the hand released. But yeah. I mean, it shouldn't be that big of a deal overall, but that's really good.
Now he gets to do his own looping of pot.
Yep. And this is another reason why I'm like not the biggest fan of Painful into send all your power spells, because you've got enough power spells in this format that you don't need to send them all, like you can
also Painful is very bad against Mill.
Well, yeah. But of course if you're up against a Mill deck, you play differently. And I mean, if you draw Painful turn 1 and you want to go for Painful turn 1 in general. So if you're up against a Mill deck and you don't have time to figure out it's a Mill deck before finding the Painful, that's pretty bad. But most cases, like the Painful choice against Mill doesn't actually wind up coming up. But yeah, pot every turn.
Partly because no one wants to be degenerate and actually play the deck.
I mean, listen, I labbed Empty Jar like heavily in this format. I tried a lot of different variations on it. And, I mean, it was fine. It's good. I think the deck is tier 1, even. It's just, like, one of the weaker decks in tier 1. I think, like, Burn is the better stall strat. And there are things that, Good Stuff Deck can do to play around Mill to an extent. So, yeah, MST on the trap hole. So, Soul is able to get a bit more aggressive here.
Unfortunately, Kesha didn't tell us what he was playing. So...
Well, we'll have to find out.
I know. We can't guess ourselves.
Yeah. Deal With It brings up a good point. They think that the ideal would be to send one power spell rather than all of them, since Faith can only get back one anyways. And that's a good point. Like, there aren't things in this format that can get spells out of the graveyard. Like, no Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, for instance, which you see in, like, Android and Beyond. So, that is a very good point. If you've just got one power spell that you do want to loop with the Faith, just send that one, and then you're not going all in and weakening your deck for the late game. So yeah, very, very good, insightful comment there.
Indeed.
Yeah. And it's just a T set and pass. So even though both players have managed, only Kesha's managed to get off the grid twice technically. But even though both players have been able to get pretty deep into their decks, it seems like still pretty much of a grind war. Interesting.
Yes. Even with the hand knowledge, there's only so much you can do if you don't have the resources to deal with it.
Exactly. And these games are so grindy that, like, oftentimes, you might not. Oh wow, Duo's really good here. Yeah.
They'll now know what's set or have an idea of it. Reborn is gone.
Wow. And Chaser, that's very good to get rid of as well. Wow. That was a good duo.
Which means he now knows if the cards were certain cards, he now knows what's in the back row.
Oh, trap hole for Tomato. That's pretty good. But
of course,
Kesha still does have their normal summon. So, wow. That's huge. Oh, yep, and there's the Solemn for that. Yeah. You got to stop that Dark Hole at this point. Yeah, let's see.
You
Does
won't
Kesha
lose,
have...
but you're in a very bad position.
Okay, they just calculated out for Soul.
Which means the set card is not a Witch or Sangan, more than likely.
40 more. It probably won't matter. No, they should be 100 down. Okay, there you go. Okay, all worked out. But yeah, this is very intense. I'm very curious what that set card is, given that they did Solemn. I mean, it might still be a Recruiter, and they just don't want to go down to one card, which very fair.
It would have been at 2, but yes.
Yeah, well, it can't be. It's just one monster, so. But it could be like Faith. It could be Bug as well. Probably not, given that.
Unlikely at this point that Kesha has Sentry.
Yeah. Honestly, deal with it. That would be a really good feature for DB. They say, I pray DB will one day have a halve your life points button. Honestly, same. It would make things so much easier. But until that day, we must suffer and do math.
We can't. Well, actually, you lot can't read. So how are you expected to know numbers?
Exactly. Numbers are basically. I mean, especially when you get up into algebra and beyond. Letters and numbers, same thing. But let's see what they're gonna do here. This might just be another period of just like sort of sitting across from the table and just saying go, because neither player really. I mean, for Soul, they don't really have an incentive to attack into the set in case it's something like Tomato. I mean, I guess if it's Tomato, you're like getting through the tomatoes left in the deck to like, make their board a bit less sticky later on. But like,
Graveyard Watching is a little less necessary in this format. Still very necessary.
Yeah, no,
due to all the things.
Yeah, exactly.
But no heavy storms have been used yet.
Yeah.
Or True Nades.
So
this is a Quip aggro after all.
Kesha is potentially playing the sets a bit fast and loose here, but they probably have some way to they've played formats with heavies, all over them. So I feel like people.
True Nade is really good in this format as well.
True Nade is okay. It's like, so the issue is like my sort of feelings about spell and trap removal in like Treasure and afterwards as well, but. Like the MSTs, I think, are extremely, extremely valuable, even more potentially valuable than the heavies. And my reasoning for this is that like being able to react to what your opponent does oftentimes is very good. So this can include, sniping one of your opponent's traps the turn they set it. So turning off things like Wuboku, which we have seen come up quite a bit of times in these games, but also hitting things like Snatch Steal, which are incredibly good in this format. And, Heavy can also deal with a Snatch Steal, but it doesn't stop at the turn of, which can be disastrous in some cases. So, I do think that, going for...
Oh, what's he doing?
Interesting. This is a very interesting line. They must have a plan here. They've used up Dark Hole already, so...
He went into Sangan.
Oh, no, wait, they haven't used up Dark Hole.
They just did.
Oh, there's the Dark Hole, yeah. Did they? Oh, they got the back. They got the Dark Hole back with the Faith earlier. Okay,
I see. Yeah. I see also what happened now. He wasn't Sangan, it was Tomato. Losing Tomato would have been bad.
I mean, I think it makes sense.
So he judgmented.
I think if it was Sangan or Witch, you just like
let it go
for it
for now.
Yeah. But hello.
Oh, we have another.
Hi, DK. Hello. We actually caught the end of your game against Clody, and that was intense. So, very
just
good.
Game 3?
Yeah, well, we saw game 2
just
as well.
Game 2?
So we were there for the hype parts. It was very back and forth, which is very, very cool to see.
But now
it was fun.
Yeah.
We've had some moments here. It's been a bit slower though.
Yeah, but it's we didn't catch Soul and Colgate's game, but we caught Kesha and Danny's game. And there's been some intense Yu-Gi-Oh going on with Kesha in this one. And Soul has been no exception here. Both duelists here have been playing exceptionally well. It's very cool to see. This is the third time that Kesha's activated Pot of Greed this game. Oh,
wow.
The Faith's really pulling their weight.
Now he's getting the resource advantage.
Yeah, I mean, I think they already had the resource advantage.
On and off. Now it's like permanent. He can use up as many cards.
And Nuzzler,
like
interesting. So
will
are they
he
going
pay 500?
Yeah, no.
No effect.
It makes sense. I mean, if they were in a good place to deal with this board, they probably would have done that already instead of
Yes.
So it makes sense.
Also,
blocking each other.
Kesha may have also drawn Summon Skull.
Oh yeah, this is an interesting thing that we saw from
Reborn
a previous game here.
Raigeki?
If it's Raigeki, that will likely be the end of the game, but it looks like it isn't. This still might be the end of the game though. And yep, there it is.
It's Witch. Yeah. Yep.
Unless there's a Karibo here, which there could be. We have seen Karibo get played in this tournament so far. So
the search is mandatory.
DJ played Karibo versus me.
Yeah, that's where we saw it, and so it.
Karibo has its uses, but
Maha
Vilo.
Oh, that's really cool to see. I'm sad we didn't get to actually see that happen on stream. So, but very cool to see. Okay, and we've got our finalists here. Kesha winning that one against Soul. So I'm excited to see the finals. We've got Clody versus Kesha. Will Clody get the third local, or actually no, they didn't win the second one, but this is their third time in finals. So very cool.
3 times the charm, maybe. Yeah.
He already won the first one.
Yeah. So will this be Clody's second Locals Legend title? Or will Kesha gain the Locals Legend title for the first time?
Yeah.
We'll have to watch and find out. I'm excited to see it.
Nice updates.
Yeah.
Wow. Anyway, like if you want, I can like say 2 things about my game that you watched.
Go ahead.
So I think game 2, like what I arguably should have done is set Witch. He will attack into Witch, and I will grab Cyberjar.
Oh,
and then
hello, Soul. Sorry.
And then
DJ.
And then that would change the course of the game completely. And game 3, what I should have done is set Heavy Storm next to Robin Goblin. Because he summoned the white magical head and got lucky, sniped my Heavy Storm, and then he could play around my Goblin. Which is pretty stupid, and I drew like every piece of the Unholy Trinity one after another, which is also really unlikely, but that's like a major drawback of having like Goblin in your deck at all.
Yeah.
Like these cards, they have some there's some anti-synergy going on. So those are like my 2 biggest misplays, and I think if I had taken the time to think this through, or if I had more experience playing the format, then maybe I could have won this.
In this format,
Yeah.
In this format, if you're going to play Robin Goblin, you dedicate yourself to it. Wall of Illusion, Mask of Darkness.
I mean,
you make sure that that card you can abuse if you want.
I don't necessarily agree with it to that extent, but yeah, I mean, I think that like what you're saying kind of lines up with my thoughts of Robin Goblin as well, DK, where it's like, I don't know, I'm not the biggest fan of it. Like, you've got the treasures already, like you don't really need the Goblin. It can come up, but I mean,
it's a fun card, and it can completely blow out the opponent.
Yeah. So that's fun to see. But
so maybe as a one-off, I played it at 2 copies here, but maybe it should be a one-off. I think it's a very cool card, very interesting.
Yeah.
Because I played Giant Red, and it happens so many times in this tournament or the first one. Like, I said Giant Red, they attack into it with Tomato. I flip the Robin Goblin, and I go +1.
So, it does come
This
up.
is very powerful combo. Yeah. All right.
I built my own version, like 2 White Magical Hat, 2 Mask of Darkness, Wall of Illusion, 2 Robin Goblin. But I built it in a way that it's like good stuff, as you said, but it's centered more around being able to get back trap cards instead of just relying on it and hoping it doesn't get destroyed because MST exists.
Yeah, I think that's a bit too cope for my taste, honestly.
It works.
Well, I mean, I don't know. it doesn't really. The thing is, a lot of time when a deck like that works, it's more working because of the good stuff aspects as opposed to the janker parts of it, which is one of the reasons why classifying hand control is like kind of hard. And I do think that it's tier 2 because it's just in a suboptimal version of good stuff most of the time, and you don't really need the additional discards. But yeah,
they've started.
Like,
by
they started. Okay, perfect. I know that.
Oh, they started.
Yeah, there was a bit of delay.
Okay.
But before we
Ultimately,
dive
I
into,
believe like yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was gonna say before we dive into this game in full, I'm definitely
painful
gonna put it
choice
on screen. Okay, there we go. But before we dive in, Soul, since you're with us, how about that deck? Because apparently, according to Colgate in the YouTube chat, you actually won game 1 with a giant Maha Velo, which sounds really cool. So how did the deck work out for you in the tourney?
Yeah, I really like the deck. I don't know. I feel like when it comes to me, when I build these decks and when I play them, I always feel like I could have probably done a couple of things differently. But as a whole, I think the concept makes sense. Like having just like a monster that's really hard to like out and being able to deal with like other stuff, so that way you're not like, say as an example, even just in like a good stuff scenario where you're like trading like mecha chasers against each other, you can just like have your mecha chaser just get over everything else, and it's really hard for them to out unless they draw like a fissure. So it's sort of like a repeatable out type of thing, which I know there was like some experimentation in like Yugi Kaiba with that, but now you actually have like decent Eclipse. So I think it was good. In terms of
in Yugi Kaiba, sorry for just interrupting again.
No, I want to hear the rest of Soul's thoughts before we jump in.
Okay, I was just gonna say that like what I mean as well by like how I could have played better is that in the game against Kesha round 1, I managed to have 2 of the Unholy Trinity against them. I duoed and like copied them, and then the issue I think like basically I made a big misplay. I think in that match they were on very low resources and they basically had a tomato, and I just did not attack it for like several turns. And I feel like I should have just played a lot more aggressively there because I had like I had like a ton of monsters in hand and things like that. So it's like I should have just played aggressively because it's like I still would have monsters at the end of the day, and they would be a lot lower on resources. So I think it's something of like with this type of deck, I think you definitely need to be aggressive when you can, but also understand when to like conserve your resources as well for like those final pushes. With like say in the match with Colgate, like I definitely needed to like save say Maha Vilo and the Equip for when I know everything was all said and done. So
yeah,
definitely something that I think you got to consider with these Equip decks is when do you get aggressive and then when do you wait until you have everything.
Witch hole.
And I think that's a very good point, especially because like, you know, a lot of the times I feel like we're used to like just grinding because good stuff decks can have an immense power to grind in these formats because they're just playing cards that work individually on their own for the most part. So like you can just play the long game like that. But I think you raise a very good point where like you sometimes just do have to get aggressive with these sorts of decks, especially when you're playing like a deck where like the combo piece is to actively get more aggressive, like an Equip deck with the Mahas and stuff. So I think it's a really good point and something that, you know, people who want to play this sort of deck should keep in mind when doing so. So
yeah, as well. And like I think the thing as well that I like about Maha though too is that it's basically able to deal with everything else other than the main beater. And so it actually, I think, so that's why I played like only 2 of it as well, since I can search it out as more so, since you do need another piece for it. But since it's able to get over everything else, I don't think it's as bad just drawing it by itself. And it's still decent to like bait out cards like a trap hole and things like that. So I don't think Maha is even a bad card necessarily. I think with that you can even like I played as well like Solemns in the main because I felt like compared to Jurai Guma, I know it can be a bit riskier. So it felt like you were a bit more in control of like when you need to use Solemn as opposed to like with Judgment. It sometimes felt like a risk after you use like Gumo. So
yeah, and I think the Solemns in that deck are very good because you know, as you said, you need to have some controlling aspect to keep your combos alive and to keep what you need to keep alive. So We did see that come up in the game against Kesha where they tried dark holing you and you had the Solemn for that. And that was a really good play there. I came in very clutch in that instance. It just didn't work out with the end of it. So
yeah, that it's sort of like that's sort of how it goes, I think.
Yeah,
like,
and I mean,
they have everything. They have everything, right?
Yeah, and that's what these old formats will often have. People are gonna have outs, and that's one of the tricky things is like knowing which outs to play around, or like betting that they'll have a certain out or not an out. It's very interesting. But congratulations to both Soul and DK on their performance in this tournament, because semifinals here is nothing to scoff at. Very good.
Did nicely though in this game. Yeah.
The Mirror Force for a Mech Chaser and a Sangan. It's pretty good.
Notes. Yeah. Also, after Sangan search.
Yeah, the Sangan will get
back
to search,
a bit.
But yeah, I mean that's pretty good because now Clody can get a bit more aggressive in this next turn.
Notes from while we were talking. Kesha activates swords. It's Faith. Are you stupid? And I'm not insulting the thing.
I mean,
yeah, Faith. But then Clody gets the Sentry. And the Sentry by Kesha.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So that's why I guess that's why you'd go for swords there. Yeah, double summon. Yeah, not legal this format.
Reckless.
But
a bit reckless to do that.
No, I mean,
but it worked out.
Yeah, if they've got the force form,
heavy,
makes sense. Heavy into Waboku maybe. Oh, 2 live draft. That's a huge heavy there. Wow.
Switch, and now Bash is facing.
Oh yeah, this is a lot of damage here. Dropping Kesha below half, so very concerning if risky, Kesha here.
Risky board wipe here.
Yeah. Oh, DL with it brings up a good point. Sometimes you feel confident with a Waboku, but not so much if it gets solemned and you die at 5,000 life points. Yeah, that can happen. That happens a lot in Treasure as well. Or not Treasure, Critter as well. This is Treasure.
Also, Acts of Despair is scarier than Nuzzler.
Well, it was interesting.
I think there's benefits to both.
Something you said a bit earlier.
Yeah, because I actually, I asked for everyone to send the Waboku's pretty good. Yeah, sniping that Waboku there. As I said before, that is one of the reasons why I do prefer MST slightly to things like Heavy, because sniping a Waboku that your opponent sets and feels confident in can be so strong, and that showed really much there. So
yeah, a big example. This format, basically, we saw this big grindy affair between Danny and Kesha, Soul and Kesha. And then game 1 here, Clody just knocks him out in 2 turns with the right combo.
Yeah, and I mean, that can happen. It's a lot rarer to happen in Treasure than future formats, but it can happen.
Yes.
So, and it's cool that we get to show that off here. So, very cool to see.
Yeah, amount of pressure you can push on despite, in the OCG, I just keep bringing up the OCG, but it's important too, because we don't have Charity, and they do, and they MRL format of Charity, and no Cyberjar.
Yeah.
So
that's honestly why I feel that's honestly why I feel like in general when discussing the TCG formats, the OCG formats can be decent at looking for some general ideas of things to potentially play, but when you're actually talking about the formats intensely, specifically, the OCG formats are actually, in my opinion, kind
insane.
of not helpful.
They can be very insane.
Yeah, they can be very insane. But they're very different. They can be helpful in some ways, but in general, if you're talking about certain things going on in a format, I think it's just generally better to focus on the TCG itself as opposed to the OCG, unless you're looking for inspiration for specific deck ideas. But at the end of the day, you should be able to.
I got an analogy.
Yeah.
It can be very different. Go on, DK.
I got an analogy to make.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not I haven't played too much early OCG formats, but maybe like comparing OCG and TCG, early OCG, early TCG to each other is a little bit like comparing Goat format and Edison to each other, because like these formats are different in their emphasis. I would like propose. Edison is much more explosive than Goat. Goat is much more resource based than Edison. And it's kind of like that with early TCG, early OCG too. Early OCG is much more explosive and really insane in this regard.
When.
And I think,
depends on when.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah. Of course. But I think that would be like, there would be like somewhat of a different customer base, so to speak, for OCG and TCG. So
yeah, no, I think that's
like,
a good. Anyways, I think it's a good analogy. Like, you know, as you said, it's like not a perfect analogy, but I think it is very good. And like, you know, you can potentially. There are some ideas that apply to like each format, right? Like, you can take some ideas over from Goat to Edison and vice versa, right? But like at the end of the day, you've got to like the most high level analyses of these formats like are generally based on the formats themselves instead of their forebears, because like, if you base it in like mainly on the forebears, then it can lead to some misleading conclusions potentially.
Potentially, yes. The reason I do bring up the OCG isn't so much about that. It's about understanding why certain things are the way they are. Like, if treasure format, we've deliberately excluded Morphing Jar and TP2 because those aren't immediately released. They're in Tournament Pack 2. But when you bring it up, you see the list and you see why things are the way they are.
Oh yeah, the list.
Like, if we played, the list is basically curation.
Yeah, the list.
All three.
Yeah, the
all
list.
Three, the unholy trinity, the three sacred treasures, are limited because they were limited by May 2002. Yeah, Duo wasn't even limited immediately. In the OCG, they kept it at 2.
I mean, I get that, you know, they're following the OCG for a lot of these limits and stuff, but I feel like the Trinity, like the treasures would probably all get limited either way, because I mean, they're just kind of unhealthy for the game as a whole. Like, I know that people enjoy MRL format in some capacity, but like, you know, it's a bit tough. Also, you know, we didn't actually mention this, but Clody got a big knowledge boost off of this coffee that they fired there on Kesha's hand. Like, that was pretty huge. They got to see like
Kesha
5 cards.
opened painful.
Yeah, Kesha opened painful, sent 3 hand rips,
dumped 5 spells.
Yeah.
Dumped 5 spells.
I think if you're going for the sending just a bunch of spells off of painful, going for the hand rips is the best way to do it. It's still not like my favorite play in the world, but like, it's better than, you know, sending like Raigeki, Pot of Greed, or stuff like that, which actually are very good late in the game if you draw them. The hand rips are a lot less good late in the game if you draw them. So I think it makes sense. But we see Clody search the white magical hat here, so we'll get to see some hand control action potentially.
MST
for
and a Waboku.
So this could potentially go very poorly for Kesha here. That is 2 MSTs used up by Clody though, so we'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to see exactly if that comes up, like, because later in the game, Kesha could potentially feel more confident in setting things. Looks like Clody's going to go for the Reborn here to try and get in with the white magical hat after hitting over what they assume is Kesha's Magician of Faith. So we'll have to see what happens here. Kesha could have, they did set a witch just in case, but you know, that still won't protect from the white magical hat here. So a bit.
The good news is it's random.
Yes, it is random.
So,
but that means that it could also
be much worse if it wasn't.
It could also hit the Faith, which would be not the best for Kesha. But yeah, I mean, honestly, there's not the best options here for Clody to hit because, you know, as they mentioned in chat, they're all monsters, and most of which can deal with the hat. But they hit a chaser, but
Kesha manipulated that very well.
Yeah,
by searching for the second chaser. It's a 50%. Dark Hole.
That's very good. Yeah.
It's a 50% chance that he'll hit a chaser instead of a faith or that other mystery card, which is a tomato.
Yeah. So
So he protected his faith, which he's probably
and
set.
yep, that's I mean that has to be the faith in my like you set faith here, get back like a hand rip probably because or at least you threaten that.
Yes.
If Clody sets a bunch to play around Kesha getting back a hand rip, they get back something else, and it's just great here.
Yes.
So,
Also, if it were tomato, he just summon and punch in.
exactly. So very intense gameplay here.
Oh, he
Chloe's
said
actually
everything.
going to set 3 here. I mean, they know that Kesha did not have heavy in hand at the start of
Yeah, could
this
have
turn.
top decked it.
Yeah, it could have.
Very risky.
But
There are 2 in the deck.
yeah. Well, maybe 2. We don't know if they're playing both or just playing 1 and 3 MST. I think you do generally play 2 heavy in the MST.
It's also
as well.
game 2.
Yeah, it's game 2.
It's also game 2, so likely.
But I mean, game
most
1
likely
they didn't
sided
really
them in.
see too many like major
There's the
back row
chaser.
stuff, right? But yeah, going for chaser here makes sense. I think. Yep, and that will
Yeah.
indeed go through. You have the read that Chloe doesn't really have live back row. They're just setting cards that they knew would get hand ripped potentially. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense here. So
Indeed.
this is a very worrying situation for Clody. But it really depends on what their back row are. So we'll have to see. And if Chloe does top deck like a White Magical Hat and attack over the Faith, then they can at least rip a card out of Kesha's hand. So, yeah. No chaser, yeah. So there's one unknown card in Kesha's hand here.
Yes.
So yeah, it's just Tomato Dark Hole. And we'll have
Clody's
to see.
knowledge
Yeah.
is close to being
and
meaningless, basically.
yeah, because even if you got that full hand knowledge,
Eventually, the hand
it could
changes
indeed be
as
chaser,
draws
as
happen.
Kesha says. But yeah.
Kesha playing a bit of mind games.
Yeah. I mean, it could be. Watch it actually be the chaser. Although, yeah, it could be. Yeah. Watch it actually be the chaser. That'd be very funny. Interesting.
What?
Summoning.
Whoa.
Oh, no, that was,
Oh, I
that was
Yeah. Or is
was
it?
that a misclick? Oh, no, there's
What?
interesting.
Is
Oh, that's
I
why.
see.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Still,
he had nothing to clear the faith with.
yeah,
So
it's still a bit awkward, but I guess if you look at the graveyard is kind of like, I mean, you could get back Reborn, but like, is that really that helpful for the situation that you're in? So actually, I do think that was the best play for.
oh,
they've got another
the
Fisher too.
second.
So yeah, I think that.
Oh!
And the heavy to clear that back row. I think that. Yeah, I think that actually was the best play on Clody's part, even though it seems so weird. I think that was the best play. Wild
Though
to think of.
now he has nothing to put on feet.
Yeah,
And he
so
dropped the tomato.
it's
That
a
was
bit worrying,
as
yeah.
if nothing happened.
Yeah, and Clody is now down some Fishers, so bit worrying.
And a
down a
Storm.
heavy, so
This is game if he has
potentially,
nothing.
yeah. Dark Hole
He
though
has a
will
Dark
clear
Hole.
the tomato. So now
We
it's really a top
Also
deck
know Kesha has set a dark hole since that's the last
Yes.
card we know of.
and catches at so many life points that they can. I mean, if Clody won't be able to kill them in one go, very likely. But interesting.
Probably not.
The question is Kesha going to read that that's like a faith or something that actually does something, or are they just going to read that that's a witch or a Sangan, and not fire the hole? I mean, either way, honestly, you might just leave it as is. Because if it is something like faith, Clody's got to flip it up, and that's a really vulnerable position to be in.
Yes, it might be worth it to just go for it anyway.
It might, but
If it's-
honestly, I mean, if you don't have an aggressive follow-up, you might just want to wait some more.
Yeah, that's why I said might. If
Yeah.
he can go for game here, then it might.
There's the dark hole, yeah. So
He might have something then. It's faith.
it was indeed the faith, but and they've got Reborn.
Reborn.
Yep, Reborn will be pretty good.
Avoiding
here, and-
trap hole.
Yep, and you're
This is
also,
only game.
No,
It's game.
I mean, it was basically game either way because, like, if Clody did have Mirror Force, then Kesha gets a search for something that threatens lethal next turn. Clody's still in top deck mode, so it was very much sort of like a, that was just
Life point.
the end of the
The
game.
life point gap was also huge.
Oh, the life point
Very
gap was
hard to
huge,
come back
too.
from.
Yeah. And that's
Very
honestly,
project-
I mean, that was pretty crazy too, because like from the beginning of the game, it actually seemed like Clody had the upper hand. You know, they were able to comfy, they were able to use hat to hit a card out of the hand. I mean, it seemed like Clody was, you know, far ahead, but Kesha was able to turn it around very, very well. And so, yeah, that worked out very well for them. So, good stuff. And I mean,
even though these games can get what are you gonna say, Soul? I've
I
been
was just
talking
gonna
too much.
say, I
Anyway.
think especially I think with what that game showed, it just shows like how good I think Kesha is and how great they are. It seems that these older formats, especially when I was playing with my match, they were able to win with. Obviously, I misplayed, but I definitely think they put up a really great fight getting like duoed and copied. So I think.
Speaking of a hand rip,
Yeah. Okay.
one of the treasures have dropped.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or if you want to get all religious, the Unholy Trinity.
yeah.
I really like that name for the hand rips. Yeah.
Yeah, the Unholy Trinity. Yeah, it's very funny. But it
Yeah.
looks like Kesha's got a really good hand here. Oh wow, Waboku, Magician of Faith. Yeah, that is insane. I honestly don't know what you take here. Maybe you just take the Magician of Faith because you know cut them off of monsters a little bit, but the Waboku makes up for that a little bit. Like, oh wow, this is really tough for Clody.
Waboku, Moth, Snatch, Raigeki, Change of Heart.
Yeah, this is pretty tough.
Hard to say what to send back if we don't know his hand.
Like
Yeah.
it's depending as well if they have like some way to deal with the faith. Maybe it isn't faith. It could be to like go after say Raigeki or Change of Heart. If you have like say your own faith or so, maybe not your own faith, but like as a way to if you can bait out the Raigeki or Change of Heart.
If he has confiscation, leave it and take something else.
Well, yeah, but
And then rip the Magician of Faith
Okay,
with confiscate.
they
Yep, he sent the
did
Magician of
take
Faith.
the Moth, which you know I do think makes sense. But yeah, this does kind of
Yeah.
imply that they don't have the Comfy here. They might have Duo.
Yeah.
That's very fair, but
Yeah.
um,
Duo is more random, so you take
so that you
the
take
Magician
you
anyway.
take the Faith, yeah, because you want that out of the hand. But yeah, it looks like they're just gonna T-set pass now. If that's a Magician, then this could work out pretty well for Claude. Oh, and
He
Kesha
top
draws
deck chaser.
draws a monster. Wow, that's pretty good.
Okay.
Now this is Magician.
This is
I don't necessarily think it is Magician, but if it is, then this is like, oh, okay. I feel like
What?
it's very much not Magician then. But I can't think of what it would be then.
That's weird.
Yeah, because if it's, you don't care if it's like Sangan or Witch. You don't care if it's Tomato in that case. Maybe
Maybe
it's
a set,
Cannon
like-
Soldier? Like,
Or a set, I don't know. If you want to like play the
What?
wow. Maybe they
guess
get
we
a
didn't
hat.
have-
It was
in hand.
Witch.
They might have a no. I was thinking like, I mean, maybe they just want to keep them off of monsters, but I feel like you just
What is his hand? If he's oh, this is Raigeki bait.
yeah. So I guess this makes sense because you mirror force the chaser to hopefully force out the Raigeki in a turn or two, right? Because you just hope the Kesha doesn't have any more monsters. But there's another monster, so it looks
Yes.
like looks like Kesha's not taking the bait.
The set card is probably Waboku.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Could
And-
be something else as bait, but
Yeah.
unlikely.
But yep.
And
attacking
there's the
in with
tomato.
Tomato makes sense. Yep, and it's
It's
a
a
witch there,
witch.
so Kesha will be able to get back a mechanical chaser here or a tomato of their own. And yeah,
He's
this-
not gonna do the tomato war. He's gonna Raigeki.
well, maybe. You could
Probably.
potentially do the tomato war and save the Raigeki for later. You could also like there's a couple things you can do because what you could potentially no, that probably wouldn't be that good. But I was thinking like you could crash your tomato into their tomato, get out a Cannon Soldier to end on, and then hit over the witch, and then like snatch steal whatever they get off the tomato at the end. Waboku
Or
protect the Cannon Soldier next
alternatively-
turn, then change of heart change of heart whatever your opponent brings out. So like that could be a line that they potentially go for,
Yeah.
and it looks like they might actually be
He
doing that.
could. Yeah, don't go full tomato war.
No, you
Just
might.
float directly. Yeah, you might. Yes, but I don't think you should in this case.
Ah,
Grind into his third, then Raigeki after dropping Cannon.
No, I don't think you. I mean, as I said, I think you can go for the Snatch Steal play to take potentially this tomato. I mean, there are a variety of things you can do depending on how much you want to thin your deck and your opponents. So you could go full Tomato War, get out a Cannon Soldier to end on, hit over like the Witch or whatever your opponent brings out, depending. I mean, if your opponent brings out like a Sangan or something, you don't really care as much.
We're about to find out.
Yeah, will they go all the way here, or will they end on the...
They will.
Yep. And I think that's fine. I mean, your deck thinning here to draw into your bigger plays. And yeah, I feel like it's very likely that they'll end on a Cannon Soldier here to pair with their, like, Snatch Steal and Change of Heart. But we'll have to see. Looks like Clay's just going to bring up a Witch
now,
here.
Raigeki is now less of a prospect.
Yeah, but honestly, you don't need to use it yet. Like, you could just wait. And I guess we'll see if Kesha is going to go.
It was an option.
Oh, yeah, it's an option. But looks like they're just going to go for a Witch of their own. Very interesting here.
Suicide?
Yeah, it looks like they're going to crash their Witch into... Oh, no, they're not. They're just going to leave it at that. That's very interesting. Maybe they want Clody to actually pull the trigger on hitting the Witch. But, I mean, then you just risk Clody, like, switching their Witches to defense and just passing back to you, and you can't get over them. So,
okay,
a
strange set.
That. I guess the Cannon Soldier play would play into like if Chloe's got like a Fisher or something like that can deal with the Cannon Soldier, that would be bad.
Yeah, baiting the Waboku. There it is.
Yeah, the Waboku will trap hole.
Ah.
So yeah, I feel like Clody maybe should have. Yeah, because now, or not, I feel like Kesha should have gone for a slightly different play here. But, I mean, it's hard to tell when your opponent's got 5 cards in hand. So, yeah. Oh, but it looks like they might have drawn something to get... Pot. Pot is about as good a draw as you can get. Yeah. So, very interesting here. Let's see if they actually have a monster here to hit over those Witches, or if they even want to. But, yeah, that is 4 of the... That's Pot, Raigeki, Change of Heart. I mean, Snatch Steal isn't technically
a monster was drawn.
Yeah. So they're going to set that, pass back to Clody. Let's see if Clody drops something like a Dark Hole or Raigeki on this. Or if they just keep it walled up. And it looks like they're just going to probably keep it walled up, potentially. I assume. I don't know.
Yes.
It's tricky.
Or he's going to reveal the set card. It's fake.
Wow. We're going to see some more Pot of Greed loopings out of Kesha. I mean, understandably so.
Yeah.
I mean,
the good news is he has 2 Witch, so he can get 2 cards from deck. So he won't be that far behind in card advantage. The bad news is you just allowed Pot of Greed to be activated twice.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. I mean, there's nothing you could really do to play around that unless you did have a board clear, but
or Change of Heart.
Yeah. But it's still anyone's game here.
Another set card.
But it is very much heavily favoring Kesha, given what we know of their hand. The thing is, Clody could easily draw into some other hand rips to take those cards out of the hand.
Going to attack again.
Yep. Another fake.
Again!
Yep. So here
again.
Again, one of the most powerful things you can do in this format. But, it does happen. And this isn't unique to Treasure. This is something that happens in Critter, and, it's something you can do in a variety of formats. But I think I like it more, actually, in Treasure, because in Critter, there's no real way around it, like, once the Faith has been triggered. In Treasure, you can actually play around it slightly if you do have hand rips, right? You can... hand rip the card that your opponent adds, and it sort of equalizes it a little bit. So it's a bit less disgusting. However, Kesha has been able to get off that Pot of Greed 3 times this game. So, still pretty good. Pretty, yeah.
This is why Magician of Faith was banned.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not banned soon enough, apparently, though. But, yeah. Kesha's got 8 options of things to do here, so I guess we'll have to see what they do.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he hasn't been able to touch Gabibo's life points at all. So a Raigeki here, while he'll still have a big...
Very interesting. I wonder what they're actually going to painful here. Because this is very tricky. I mean, it seems like they've still got hand rips left in deck. So you can send the hand rips for sure. Because the hand rips are going to be less useful in this scenario, right? So, yep, it looks like they're going to send some of the hand rips. Let's see how many they're actually going to send. And card destruction. Wow, yeah. Card destruction is a lot less useful here when you've got very powerful cards in hand.
It's horrible.
And, yeah.
It's horrible.
Well, it makes sense why they're sending it off painful here. But
he has duo.
Maybe they're doing the reverse deck out strat, deck out yourself, right?
They could be, yeah.
That would be an interesting game 3 finish.
It's the Master Duel special.
Yeah. They'll bring out an exchange of the spirits, that's very legal.
Yeah. No, it's
their uncle at Konami said.
Yeah, it's the secret spice in this format. It's something that very few players know about, but only the pro. I mean, if they do have exchange of spirit, then they're likely winning this tournament. So there you go. So only the true tournament winners know about.
He should have sent Makiura then.
Yeah. Well, Makiura isn't. You can't have Makiura, but exchange.
Yes.
Yeah. It's totally
Yeah. This is very tricky.
But
I feel like
this is not.
I feel like you just give the card destruction, but I think the fear from Clody is like, it's painful. It's a painful choice, even. But yeah, I feel like the fear from Clody is like that Kesha has a way to actually play around their own card destruction, and will be able to use it effectively. So I think that's the fear. I think you just got to go for the card destruction here either way. Because
MST removes the card, and Trap Hole takes away a card and stuns him.
Each of them, like MST and Trap Hole, each trade 1-for-1 with something, right? Like, even if your opponent uses an MST on the Trap Hole, that's still trading 1-for-1. It's just not trading necessarily what you'd want it to be trading. Interesting. They are going to go for the Trap Hole there, so that means that they likely have a way to play around it.
Or he has MST.
Yeah, that's a way to play around it. So, they could have MST, they could have Heavy.
Raigeki
does come down here. Yep, which makes sense.
Summon Skull in hand.
And I guess this is another reason why Clody was a bit afraid of the card destruction, because Kesha could easily go for this line. Clody is at 6 cards in hand afterwards. All those cards get sent to the graveyard. And Kesha's got the duo to follow up with. So it's I don't know what the right pick off that painful was, but I definitely think it wasn't a no-brainer giving the card destruction. So
no.
Only
2 of those choices were no's.
Yeah.
2 of those choices were definite no's.
Yeah, I mean, as Kesha says, what are they going for? Just going for the mechanical chaser here. Yeah, that makes sense.
He wants to beat in now.
Yep. And I feel like
he knows Mirror Force isn't available anymore, so
so they can get
aggressive. That early Mirror Force was a big mistake.
And they are.
And there's the duo.
I don't necessarily think it was a big mistake. I think it made sense in the context of the hand knowledge, right? Like, if you know that Kesha has no other monsters.
Snatch Steal.
Yeah, Snatch Steal's a pretty good snipe here, honestly, because Kesha's got.
And he picked Cannon Soldier.
Yep, which makes sense. It's what Kesha knows about, so you want to reduce hand knowledge. So that makes sense to me.
I really do hope that that Summon Skull makes another appearance. That was such a cool way to lose, to be honest.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think Summon Skull could potentially be useful in this format.
It could, and that's why you can potentially play it. I'm not the biggest fan of it, because I feel like there are now enough cards in this format that do enough on their own, where you don't necessarily need to be playing a card that requires other cards to actually function. But we might be seeing the Summon Skull here. If it's Change of Heart into Summon Skull, that would be pretty sick. But also, are we about to see another Pot of Greed get activated? That's the question. I I think at this point it might not even be worth it to get. Yeah, just go for
No.
Monster Reborn. You've got
Reborn,
Actus the Cannon
must
Soldier
have a
engraved
heavy-
there. Yeah, just go for it.
Or your opponent's cannon soldier,
Oh,
which
interesting.
he chose not to go for. Oh wait, is Kesha watching?
I don't think so. I
Or-
mean, I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah,
He just changed immediately when I mentioned it.
No, I think that was an honest mistake. I don't think Kesha would do that because they're a big enough duelist in these formats. So
This is not game.
no, I figured that Clody had a Waboku there, but the Cannon Soldier is still, in my opinion, the good choice to take because you tribute off the Magician of Faith. Yep, you tribute off the Witch as well.
I
yeah.
see.
Oh, also,
He's going.
also
You can
another.
search for skull here.
Yep. Also, another reason why I know Kesha can't be
He
sniping
did.
for the Cannon Soldier is that there is a slight delay in the stream, and there wasn't enough time between
Yeah.
when that happened to actually
Yeah.
work out that way.
I know.
But
Wait. Oh, he didn't normal summon yet, so that's how
Yes.
he clears his.
yeah, just bringing out the skull.
Yeah.
Kind of risky in case Clody has like a Raigeki or a Dark Hole
Raigeki.
here. It might have been better just to
Basically,
tribute the cannon, but
Kesha may have overextended himself.
yeah, we'll have to see exactly what happens here, but it's definitely very intense. I don't think that either duelist is necessarily out of it at this point.
Potentially, Clody is done if he has nothing.
I mean, yeah, it all
But
depends
he
on
hopefully
the hands.
doesn't have nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It depends on the hands, but since we don't know the hands, from this outsider perspective,
Yeah.
Kesha does have the field presence. That's where the card advantage is coming from here, and that's where the risk to like Clody just dying soon is coming from. But there are cards that do turn the game around, and unless Kesha's playing things like Solemn
Yeah.
Judgment or Magic Jammer, then it's not over till it's over here.
Skull does allow Magic Jammer because you can discard it. It's empty advantage in a way, but it's unlikely.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Like they haven't seen Dark Hole or Raigeki yet. From
Yeah.
Commodity Zone.
Clody seems to be drawing terribly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But I mean that could also be a Cyberjar here. You never know.
Yeah, but
Okay,
it's
the bug will
Man-Eater.
help. Bug will help. I think you probably pop the Cannon Soldier here, right? Because the Cannon
Depends.
Soldier, yeah, the Cannon Soldier
You want to
represents
take
more damage.
or you want to let them keep the cannon soldier.
Yeah. I think you just the Reborn is gone, but they haven't normal summoned yet this turn. So like,
Yes.
yeah, it's kind of iffy. And also their back row is potentially live. So interesting. They're
he
taking
chose
the
Chaser.
That's an
Yeah,
interesting.
he
pick.
went for keeping immediate damage
Yeah.
away.
And also, like, if they feel like they can probably hit in with a tomato or something over the soldier, then that's not bad. But,
He sets.
yep, and then this is tributing it off, so you're keeping the clock going, you're filtering through your
Done.
deck to deck then into better cards, potentially. So I think this makes a lot of sense from Kesha's part. And,
And he's
yeah.
trying to go for Heavy Storm.
Yeah, or just digging for
Oh!
something, Getting another Cannon Soldier just in case this first Cannon Soldier... Well, it looks like they're just going to get rid of it that way either way.
Oh,
So-
that's right. They
That-
didn't get their own cannon soldier yet.
Yeah. So this is looking
Almost forgot that.
pretty good for Kesha, but we'll have to see exactly how it goes. Fisher will deal with the skull,
Oh!
so there is that. But I feel like Kesha wouldn't have made that play if they didn't have a way to potentially still go for a lot of damage coming up. So we might be
He
seeing a
doesn't.
Dark Hole or, probably just a Dark Hole potentially in the future. But
And he's forced to summon his cannon soldier.
but this might eat a trap hole here.
Yes. No way to recover the cannon soldier.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder what's gonna happen here. This could actually be the end of the game for Kesha here.
Maybe the 2-set card
Well, that might help
let's
against one of the
see.
set cards.
is that.
Oh, it was a
Waboku.
Waboku. Oh, it's
Is
looking,
the other
it's
card
looking
mirror
pretty
force?
bad. It's looking very bad for Kesha at this point. But oh, and the faith. Ooh. So it looks like Clody might have actually turned this game around. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what you take here, but it looks like you're just going to go for
He
the
took
MST.
MST.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
There's
And
the trap
snipes
hole.
the trap hole, which, Clody did know about the trap hole earlier because that was the card
Yes.
added off of the painful. And just like that,
This
the
isn't-
game is pretty equalized. I mean, Kesha still has a lot of cards in hand and only 10 cards left in deck. So the probability that they have a dark hole, honestly, not too low. So they could definitely go for a dark hole play here. But-
I'm expecting dark hole now.
Yeah, but I mean, it still is
Oh,
a game.
MST.
MST, yep, and that hits a trap hole of Clody's. So it looks like they are probably trying to go for something here. Let's see what they do exactly. What else have they not used up? They could potentially have a snatch deal as well. So they might want to use that on the chaser. But
Oh, he has fissure. Maybe.
yeah,
He
Fisher could be
summons
as
Giant
well.
Soldier
Yeah.
and attack.
Attack over the Faith, and then nope, that's snatch
Or
deal.
snatch
So this
deal.
could
He's
be
going
the
for
end of the
game.
It just depends. Does Clody have the MST here? Either way, yeah,
Is
this
that
is the correct
MST?
thing.
Or a lava
This-
pool, too.
I mean, if it is MST, I think this is correct. You just leave. Oh, yeah, no, that won't quite do it there. This will
No.
be still the
It's
exact
not
lethal.
enough.
This will be exact lethal. Wow. Wow, what a way to end it. Wow. That was great. That was a great end to the game. Yeah, very interesting. And I think this would have it wouldn't quite have been lethal damage if Kesha had hit the wrong back row here. If they had hit the rush recklessly instead, then it wouldn't quite have been lethal.
He
because
would
they'd
have
to
set
trap
the
hole
Giant
stop
Soldier
the-
instead.
Well, they might have just gone for it either way.
Yeah.
But still, very,
It-
very, very good game there. Kesha is indeed the winner of the Treasure Format Locals. So, congratulations
You say that
to Kesha.
just as Clody comes in.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry for the loss, Clay, but that was a hype game. Like, honestly, I think that could have gone either way in the end there. So,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Well, at least it's 3 finals in a row. Must mean something.
Yeah, we were commenting on that. We were like, is Clody going to get their second title? I mean, either way, they wound up in the finals of the locals every time. So, but yeah.
Yeah, but last game I opened with the Forceful Sentry. I saw Kesha send. I said, oh well, this guy is so good.
Yeah, I mean,
And he kept throwing this Magician of Fate and triple pot of grid, very nasty. But
yeah, but
he
I
did
mean,
good.
it's funny. We actually saw that multiple times over the tournament from Kesha. They managed to loop Pot of Greed in a couple games. And it's one of the most powerful things you can do in this format. So, yeah, we were discussing that, and it's also interesting too because I feel like it's also something you can do in Critter format as well. But I feel like in Treasure, the existence of the hand rips actually makes the combo kind of better for the opponent of it because they can at least have a recourse. Like you can snipe whatever your opponent gets back off the Faith after attacking. So it's there is some way to come back from it. Not the best ways to come back from it, but still. Welcome.
It's not so bad.
The local
Until it
legend
is.
for this week. Congratulations, Kesha, on your win.
Thank y'all. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Here, have this jester hat.
Well, you will be getting.
There's no jester hat.
Yeah, you will be getting a role in this Discord, the local legends role.
Oh, very nice.
So,
very
yeah.
nice.
But do you have any thoughts on your win and your run?
Yeah, I guess the thing that I was mostly realizing as I was playing is that this is a format with 3 Mystic Tomato and 2 Sangan and 2 Witch.
Yeah.
So really, you just want to avoid letting your opponent deck thin as much as possible because the thinner their deck gets, the greater their odds that they'll draw. Change of heart, whatever you don't want them to draw.
Yeah.
Kill tomato at all costs.
Well,
I do not care if they have a chaser, a skull, or anything like that. You get rid of the tomato.
Don't
And
give them
anyway, guys,
free
did you like
upstarts.
in game 2 the summon Magician of Fate in attack and crash into the other Magician?
Oh, that was a
of Fate?
very interesting play. Yeah, we were actually discussing that on stream. I think that was the correct play there. It didn't get you out of it, but it was the correct play, I think. But I mean, those games were just very intense, especially games 2 and 3 of that final match.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Treasures like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I mean, I really like Treasure format precisely for like the gameplay that we saw today. But I feel like a lot of people call it like sort of a discount critter format, which, you know, there are some very big similarities between the two. You know, 2 Sangan, 2 Witch will do that. But there are some major differences, so it's cool to see those manifest.
Well, the triple tomato and triple magician of faith are kind of important in this format.
Yeah.
Magic
Because, like,
ruler
painful
or
choice.
Yeah.
And hand rips. The decks in average play 18 spells in average. Every deck, I mean, like, they are all staples.
Yeah. And we
So
saw that.
you need to recycle them.
Yeah, we saw that here. And also we saw painful choices being used by a lot of players in the tournament. And I think I saw both of you use painful at different times. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on this card in this format? Because I feel like it is kind of controversial because, of course, painful gets really, really good later on, but this format is kind of at its weakest. So, you know, some people have mixed feelings about the card.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly as you said. The issue, I hate painful choice. I hate drawing painful choice and I hate having to use it. But it's a good card because it sets up all the spells and like you see, like my standard move was sending the 3 hand rips and Pot of Greed and the Magician of Faith. Like this was the standard move with painful choice, and I think it's the best starter you can get by using that card.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
In late
So-
game, though, is a bit iffy.
If we had any other card at 2, like Duo, Sentry, Confiscation, whatever, unless it's a card that makes it deck that makes it necessary, I would not play Painful.
I don't know about that. I feel like that would actually sort of make an argument. So, like, if one of them was at 2, I would just, like, send that instead of Pot of Greed, personally. So that's what I would do instead. But
Oh, Kesh has
Yes,
dropped
the
his
winning
deck,
deck
list.
list. And since you're posting the winning deck list here, we saw Summon Skull come up quite a few times in these games. So, Kesh, what was your thoughts on Summon Skull? Because a lot of people have, like, myself included, like, I've sort of, like, left Summon Skull out of my version of the Good Stuff deck for this format, just because I feel like there are so many, like, individually powerful cards that you don't necessarily need it.
Yeah.
I mean, it put in work for you. So what was your thoughts on it?
The theory behind the Summon Skull was just that I wanted a way to convert off of what's it called, Snatch Steal, because I didn't want to be caught in a situation where I Snatch Steal a guy, my opponent gets to just wall up behind Mystic Tomatoes and gain 1,000 every turn. That was really it. I guess Cannon Soldier does a similar thing, but that's really, and it's searchable by Witch.
Yeah.
It's Snatch Beat. You could
Cannon
call
Soldier
it.
does a similar thing, but it's not as based. So.
Oh,
That's
hi,
true.
Colgate.
Yeah. Welcome
Colgate.
Colgate to the stream. Yeah. I mean, that's the key thing, I think. You know, how based is it? And Summon Skull is definitely pretty based in this format.
Yeah. I like it in Critter too, potentially. Though I've yet to 100% figure out how to make it work all the time. Like Ultimate Offering's an option, but
Ultimate Offering
maybe
is good in
Paolo will
everything.
figure it out.
Well, with heavies
good,
and with heavies being prominent, it's a bit less good. But yeah. But I do also really like your spell and trap ratio, Kesha. The 1 heavy, the 3
Thank you.
MST.
Not a single judgment.
I feel like the
No.
MSTs are like actually. I mean, people look at heavy and they're like, "Oh, it clears away your opponent's entire back row." I mean, that's insane, and it is insane. But like the reactivity of the MSTs are so strong.
Clears away your own back row too.
I was just
That's true.
wondering that, like, with the Summon Skull as, like, the conversion, what about, like, maybe Thunder Dragon as a consideration, since there's, like, it's a little bit easier to draw, and it's, I don't know, like, I guess maybe it depends on the type of deck, especially, I guess, with card destruction, it does give you more consistency there, too. And can lead to other...
I thought about Thunder Dragon. I just thought that, like, Thunder Dragon's also cool because it kind of insulates you against, like, Duo.
yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like I couldn't find the room for it.
Yeah.
I guess it's more of a build-around card still.
Yeah.
If you think
Yeah,
about it, yeah.
Summon Skull is 1 card, and Thunder Dragon has to be 3.
Yeah.
Not just 1 card. 2 Witch equals 3 Skull. Witch can convert into Skull. So you don't need to play multiples if you don't want to.
Witch is such a crazy card. I love Witch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sangan isn't so bad yet. It has uses, but eventually, like as we get into more powerful 15 or less attack point monsters, Sangan will get just as crazy as Witch in some ways. But Witch, there's so many
I mean,
low defense monsters
I feel like
that
this,
are just.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like this format, they're both like insane because you've got the resource like train, right? Sangan into Witch into Sangan.
Yeah.
You know, you can just keep that
Yeah.
going. So
Yeah.
I cannot imagine.
Yeah, Sangan's still pretty good. It goes into Witch, but Witch just has more targets. And
yeah, I mean,
as we
that's-
get into the later formats, we'll get more and more targets that it can get, and Sangan cannot.
yeah,
I cannot
Well,
imagine a world where people just play with like 3 Sangan and 3 Witch. Like what? Like
yeah. I mean,
There's a
you have to
world
put
where you
2 when it's too many.
yeah.
there's a world where you just play with 2 Witch, depending on your deck.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Witch
there
is
are
that
edge
strong.
Cases. Yeah, there are edge cases, but yeah. I mean, I think that 3 Sangan, 3 Witch in a format like in a DM format that is kind of would be a bit broken. Like I briefly tested the sort of like critter format without the critter limited list, using Yu-Gi Kaiba limited list, and I mean that just made Exodia the best deck because
Yeah, I can
I
expect.
mean,
Oh,
okay,
I
you
still
say
think Can and Burn can compete. I did almost beat you that game too.
here's the thing though. You say that in a DM format, but if I had the option to put 3 Sangan and 3 Witch in like a Lightsworn deck from 2008, like I'm doing it.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
The reason I specified DM is because technically you can play 3 Sangan, 3 Witch in modern. It's just I mean they're errated, but like
Oh, that's true.
yeah.
That's,
Sangan can still be good, but Witch.
I love how the reason that Sangan is better now is just because it can go into Almirage. Like I don't know why, I just think that's funny.
Yes.
Which also now has Artemis though too. actually.
Sangan was also 1 card Halki Fibrax.
That's true, actually. Which
And don't
does have
forget
Artemis.
Tour Guide.
Yeah.
Don't forget Tour Guide.
They both were 1 card.
Yeah,
versus.
tour guide makes
So I
it pretty
tried.
insane as well. I'm excited to get
Yes.
to those formats in 10 years on my channel.
What?
No, I'm kidding, but it'll be quite some time for me personally to cover them.
One day.
Yeah, one day.
We've barely begun on Joey Pegasus. You know,
Exactly,
we're
and there's
getting-
actually
We're almost done with Joey Pegasus. That's
well,
the hilarious
in terms
part.
of my video coverage of them. But while we've got you on stream here, Kesha, there is an exciting Joey Pegasus
Yes.
thing coming up. So if you want to mention that.
Let's just do a quick little plug before I go do my laundry. Yeah. So next Saturday, not next Saturday, next Saturday, we're gonna have the second installment of the Jinzo Jackers tournament. This is gonna be Joey Pegasus tournament. It's Jinzo Jackers 2 for the number of graceful charities you're allowed to play.
Yeah. And there is a Joey Pegasus format Discord, right? Which is just too graceful.
It's
Yeah, that's
still
an
Android,
Ellie
man.
Tin Can official. Well, no. Ellie Tin Can made a server that was just called Graceful at Tuopolis or something like that. I don't think anyone actually uses it.
No, but it's very funny it exists.
Yeah.
I feel like the fact that they looked at Graceful Charity and were like, no, this card could be at 2 is
Yeah.
incredible.
It's actually a very weird thing. One of those situations where Konami sent UD a list and decided not to have it at 1 like they already did in the OCG at that point.
What did they think that it was gonna be not crazy? Like what?
Arguably, at that point, it's still pretty strong, but they
He's not a
really
plus
did not
one.
understand how weak the TCG is in comparison to the OCG.
I mean, we'll have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh, I would just love to be in the board meeting where someone's like, okay, so 2 or 3 graceful would just be insane. But 2 is a reasonable
let's dial
number.
that
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
I mean, this is why we have the
You know.
semi-limited list, for graceful charity.
Yeah, for Graceful Charity. You know,
No,
It
we got
fits
what
things
else?
like Marauding Captain better.
Marauding Captain is on the list. No. Okay, I want to tell you guys my favorite hit ever, and that's TG Striker being limited in like 2012 or 2013 or something. I don't know why. I find that incredible.
The list that is the reason we're even talking like this.
Yeah, that was the list. That was the list that killed Plant Synchro. So they were looking at a format with Inzectors, Windups, Dino Rabbit, and they're like, no, it's the second TG Striker that's the problem here.
It's even more hilarious. This is a format that we're already facing Dino Rabbit, Windup, Inzector, and they did nothing about it.
Yeah. They were like, no, that's fine, but the TG, they got it a little too easy.
Yeah.
Was it?
And that pissed so many people off.
I think it was. Yeah.
With Stuart being an idiot.
So funny.
But
wasn't that the one where
they
went
back to GOAT format?
Yep.
They went back to GOAT format.
Wasn't that the list where they actually like released an explanation for the list? That was like the last time they did it.
By Tour. That's why I called Tour an idiot.
Well, I mean,
GOAT format, Edison, Vsox's channel.
Yeah, we can. I guess we can be grateful for that terrible decision at the time for working out long term for us.
No, but I remember there was a reason for that. It's because they wanted to pump up the XYZ monsters, so they basically put in the bandits the whole synchro roster.
People were already using Exceed monsters. Like Utopia was a good card.
People to stop playing
Leviathan Dragon.
When there was XYZ monsters.
To be fair, I do agree. I think synchros are crazy compared to a negate attack, but
no. But the thing is that Clan Synchro was doing nothing anyway back then because Dino Rabbit was just too good.
Yeah, by the time you get to YCS Kansas City, Dino Rabbit was already clearly the best deck.
Yeah, it was 2011.
Yeah.
This is Prio, yes, being interrupted. Remove?
Prior in 2012, right?
Yeah.
Middle of 2012, before Nationals.
Dino Rabbit.
No, guys, wasn't it September?
Dino Rabbit had Prio.
When the XYZ monsters were released.
For a brief time.
Master Rules 3. Or Master Rules 2.
Part of the reason I think they got rid of Ignition Effect Priority was because of Dino Rabbit, right?
Rescue Rabbit was ban-worthy.
And they're like
easily ban-worthy.
Yeah, they're like, instead of doing that, let's just change the game.
Change the rules.
It's not the rabbit that's the problem; it's the mechanic. Is the thing.
If you look at
now you can Valor the rabbit. Problem solved.
Yeah. They surely won't. They won't surely play Macro Cosmos like.
If you look at later cards, it turned out to be a good decision.
Oh yeah, for sure. But it is just funny the 100%. Circumstances around it.
I will say Ignition Effect Priority is very fun to use.
Oh yeah,
it's not good, but it's very fun.
And I mean, in these formats, it can come up with Cannon Soldiers. Bringing out.
It's not horrible. Like in DM, it's DM. It's perfectly fine until Chaos Emperor Dragon.
Yeah. Although.
Chaos Emperor Dragon has priority.
Yeah, that's a bit.
Then they ban it. Then they ban it after introducing the ban list to the TCG. Another OCG little thing. Did you know they didn't ban CED immediately?
Yes.
Yeah. They had a list where they banned like Yada and
they're probably
actually the world's list.
Yeah.
At this point, I feel like the OCG wants to keep cards legal just because they want to suffer. Like,
well, it has evolved into a very different format nowadays than the TCG.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting.
Instead of keeping CED legal, now they keep Max C legal.
Yeah.
Max C, you can argue about that a lot.
Which we won't get into here, as that would probably increase the length of the stream by another hour.
It's Critter's more important. The turn is advanced a little bit further.
Yeah.
Paolo's running a good list.
The only important thing is that Max C and Critter format would not be good.
That's true.
Horrible. How dare you?
Monster Reborn, Shane Maxey.
It's like, yes, I finally get to use this.
Last wheel.
Critter, the winner's final has been set up.
Oh yeah,
Air Falco and Paolo.
Yeah,
Paolo's even here.
That will be fun to see. So
neither are running mass control.
So
did you know that?
I did, in fact, and I'm very excited to see what happens with that. And I'll have a lot to discuss about the Critter format finals, especially because they're coming up relatively soon. So that will be fun.
Yes.
So, yeah, but that will be for another day. This was the Treasure Tournament, and congratulations again to Kesha. And I hope that this was a good sort of showcase of the format and a showcase of how cool it could be. Yeah, because I feel like not many people play it, but it can lead to some very fun games, despite the 3 hand rips being in the format.
They're fine at 1 right now.
Relatively.
Yeah.
But
I remember. Oh, I just was gonna say I remember watching Janzo's video about Magic Ruler, and he was talking about some of the different decks that was there, and he was saying how it was a bit underrated. And Janjo.
Janjo was the forerunner for this sort of thing. So I took a lot of inspiration from them for the sort of Treasure format formats themselves. Although we did differ on Morphing Jar and stuff like that, but so I'm not the only one who's covered them. But
finally,
but not as many people play them, unfortunately. Hopefully, this will change their mind. But it is getting somewhat late, so I don't want to keep the stream going for too much longer. So I guess I'll just close off here. But again, shout out to Kesha's winning, and also shout out to the tournament that they are holding in 2 weeks. So sign up for that if you're interested. It should be a lot of fun. I'm planning on joining as well. So but also keep an eye on the channel for more videos coming out, and also more local streams like this. But I hope that you all enjoyed, and until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'll see you all next time.